Good morning, Infinity. Good morning, friends, family from all over the world. We're excited to welcome you into the Infinity Fellowship. We're going to get started in a minute, but for right now, I wanted to make sure that you knew that it is time to gather the people together for an awesome Sunday service. We are an interspiritual, interfaith community, so we are welcoming to all paths and all traditions. So I want to welcome you to a great and awesome day. How awesome is it to be you? How awesome is it for you to be in this manifestation today and to be in the energy of the Infinity Fellowship? If you are on Facebook, tag your friends, tag everyone who needs to see today's remarkable If Speak Sunday. Also, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We just crossed over 2,000 subscribers. People all over the world are watching Infinity, and we're excited about it. And gather the young people together. We've got a great conversation coming up for the message today. This is If Speak Sunday, so that means that if you have a question, if you have a comment that will allow you to enable yourself to grow spiritually, that's what Third Sundays is all about. So I love you guys. We're getting ready to see you in a minute. Call the people together, tag the people, hype the people up. It's time for the Infinity Fellowship. See you in a minute. Good morning, Infinity. It's such an honor and a privilege to welcome you into the space today. We have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday planned. And of course, you know how that goes. If you want to make God laugh, you make plans. So we also know that we're here riding and rolling with you, and we are live in the spirit on this 20th day of February in 2022. We got a lot of twos popping up all over the place in this day and age, but as people are gathering, as we're in the space, as the tech crew is here and we are ready, we invite you into a brief moment of meditation, just a moment for you to start aligning yourself, for you to start programming your DNA, your mind, your consciousness toward the good. So take a deep breath in here. Good. Let it out. Take another deep one here and let it out. And then continue to breathe something like this, inhaling and just enjoying that wondrous dance of breath and life, that wondrous exchange as you exhale with the atmosphere around you, trusting that the plants on the planet, the oxygen in the air is going to find its way into your system, heal and cleanse you in this moment, and remind you of the good. So continue to breathe slowly, in and out. And just begin to sit in the stillness right now. Close your eyes as you are able. Embracing the divine presence of the God of your acceptance and understanding. Focusing on the gratitude that we feel in having made it to this day. Living, walking, celebrating, being. Giving thanks in this moment for the movement of our limbs. Giving thanks for the power of thought and analysis. Giving thanks to the awareness, to the presence of the divine. Sitting in this field of gratitude, sitting in this energy of love, embracing this moment of peace. Focusing now the energy inward. Beginning to see, to taste, to smell, to feel the divine presence of God, the divine presence of good. Do you have a name for that energy? Do you have a faith tradition that allows you to practice love and respect for that energy? Focus that energy right now on that name, on that consciousness, on that light. And feel its presence, reminding us that all is well in this moment. Continuing to breathe while embracing these feelings of good. Releasing the need to dwell on the past, releasing the need to focus on the future, and instead embracing the right now. Connecting this inner light to the outer world in the moment of awareness where we pour energy into realignment toward manifestation. We launch in this moment verbally an affirmation of what is always happening internally, a conversation with that good. So as all eyes are closed, we ask that all heads be bowed and all hearts be open in this moment. All wise and all knowing and all loving Creator, divine source, God who is perceived by many names and yet known by only one energy, we acknowledge your presence in this moment today. We acknowledge that you have always been present with us, that you are a present God and not an absent God. We give thanks to you today for being here, for today's Sunday gathering, for this spiritual community that reaches so many and touches so many around the world. We speak that something is said today in today's message or in a song that reminds people that you are always present, that you are always available, that you are always full of love that is abundant and all wise, and that all needs are met, that anything you bring us to, you continually bring us through. We ask that you bless in a special way and empower and enlighten and open up in a powerful way our speaker, Reverend Dr. Monica Coleman, today, as she shares transparently her life and her journey in a way that has touched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people globally. We are so grateful for her today. We ask blessings and covering on our tech crew, Brother Tony I today, Brother Daniel today, Sister Kanitha today, all of the family who's gathered everywhere today to join in the Infinity Fellowship. We speak healing from the space of dis-ease for those who are tuning in today. Those who get their light from this space, their spiritual boost and vitamins from this space. We're speaking that today is going to be extra and ultra amplified, that it's just going to be magnified in a powerful way. And to those who catch Infinity on the replay, we speak a present moment of divine awareness that is as real in the future as it is in the right now. Thank you for this transformative moment today. Thank you for easing the hearts of those who are dealing with loved ones who have transitioned to the space of life after life. To those who are in the space of transitioning now, we speak comfort to their spirits that they may be where they desire to be, and that the rest of us can live in appreciation and gratitude for the life that they lived with us. We speak these blessings, we speak these proclamations and know them to be true. For these things and others we cannot put into words, we simply say in gratitude, thank you. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Hotep. Shalom. Namaste. Ashe. It is done. Good morning, Infinity. Again, we greet you in the space today, and we say thank you for the energy that you are bringing into the space. We thank you on behalf of the Infinity Fellowship. We thank you on behalf of your ancestors. We have prayed in the space today, and now we open up the space for divine connection to those who have gone before, to the ancestors. And when we talk about the ancestors, we talk about them in a very present way, not an absent way. We recognize that they have transitioned to the space of life after life, and those of us who are here in the space today get to celebrate their legacy by calling their names aloud. We remember our ancestors today, the members of your family who have transitioned into that space. They may not be physically here, but we know that energy is not created or destroyed. It only changes form. And so we pour with water, which represents the living, into the earth, which represents what happens to our earth suit when we no longer need it. And we are then called to join the cosmos again in that divine circle and cycle of creation. We use the Yoruba word Ashe because there's so many meanings to it. from breath to essence to who you truly are to a proclamation of and so it is. So many wonderful things go into that simple word, Ashe. You can say that at home with me, Ashe, when you feel it. So as we pour our water, we ask that you assemble the ancestors at home with you. This is the moment for you to call out those names. If your kids are in the house and you start calling on Grandma Jean or you call on Grandma Gussie and they say, well, what names are these? Guess what? You get an opportunity to tell their stories. And by telling their stories, you keep them alive. And so we pour today with the water. And we say, cool water, freshen our spirits, Ashe. Freshen and consecrate this house of spirituality, Ashe. Freshen our collective ancestors around the world, Ashe. We give praise to Almighty Mother, Father God, Divine Source, and Creation, Ashe. Grant to us peace and prosperity, Ashe. So in this moment, we invite you to type the names of the ancestors that you remember into the box so that we can know and see who they are. You can even call their names aloud in the space today. We pour to the energies of the north that gives us our direction in the world, Ashe. To the energies in the south that reminds us of where we are from, Ashe. To the energy of the rising sun in the east, reminding us that each day we get another chance to get up and walk in and on purpose, Ashe. To the restful energies of the west and the coming of the divine feminine lunar cycle, recognizing that even in the darkness, the light is there and available, Ashe. To the energy of the ground below us, where we find our roots like a tree planted by the water, Ashe. To the skies above us, space where we see our dreams and are gifted with the ability to pull them from that space into manifest reality, Ashe. To the space where they all intersect in the middle, the space of the heart, where our dreams exist and we have the willpower to bring them into reality in alignment with creation, Ashe. This moment, call the name aloud the names of those who you want to recognize, and let's do this together, Ashe. To the children in the womb, world, and yet unborn. Together we say, Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. And so it is. Good morning. Hey there, Sister Kenitha. What's happening? Looking real stylish today.
Thank you.
I like
trying to be like you. I saw your blue.
I like that blue. I know I said.
I'm wearing blue too.
Okay. We got the blue crew. We're in the house. Came in, got the blue, got the glasses, got the popping on all
Look,
levels.
and I had to represent for Reverend Monica too, cause she.
Oh yeah, you got
stylish.
yeah no.
We're
Reverend Monica's killing the game today. We're gonna have that revealed during the message, but yeah, y'all gonna say, okay, we could just take in the beauty that's coming through the screen today and feel all of the love from that, but we also got some wisdom and other things to drop on you too. So Yeah, it's going to be all right today, y'all. It's going to be all right today. We're oh, so close to getting back in person. I can't wait. If things are warming up, as we get to that space, it's going to be awesome. But look, this is the time to say what you're grateful for, y'all. We are generating gratitude. And how do you generate gratitude at Infinity? By saying good morning. So if you're in the chat box, which you are, if you're watching this, let us know who you are. Give us your name. Let us know where you're broadcasting in from. And give us one thing that you're grateful for. Listen, I'm going to tell you straight. You don't have to go into a dissertation on what you're grateful for. You don't have to search really, really, really hard to find something. Just pick something. If you see a picture on the wall and you can make out what it looks like, that means that the rods and the cones in your eyes are functioning. What a moment to be grateful. So one thing that you're grateful for, and we're going to generate this energy around the world, and we're going to see where everybody is joining us from, and we are going to sing a song, and it's called Good Morning to You. So let's sing it. Let's get it going. And Sister Kenitha, I'm going to let you take over while I'm checking out what people are saying in the box. Yes.
To you, a good morning to you. Good morning to you. A good morning to you. Good morning to you. And a good morning to you. Good morning to you. And we say, a da 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 Good morning to you. A good morning to you. And a good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. A good morning to you. A good morning to you. Good morning to you.
Hey. All right, so let's see. We got some people who are letting us know that you're grateful. I'll put a couple of you up on the screen as we can so I can let y'all know what's up. Oh, we got Winnie Nobles in the house. Grateful for the community of family. I love it. Sister Winnie, good to have you in there. Are you still in Rwanda? It's at nighttime in Rwanda, I do believe. So we're happy to be there in the evening, chilling and sending the energy of love into the world. I'm grateful in this space today. We got CL is grateful for thought. I'm telling you, I'm grateful for thought. The ability to put two and two together. Come on now. I'm grateful for the ability to attempt the two. Even if I'm wrong sometimes, at least I can realize that I'm wrong. That's the power of thought too. Awesome in this space today. Stacy Jackson's in the house. I see you, Stacy. Extremely grateful to be here in place of genuine love and acceptance. Great to have you on. Great to have you, Sister Stacy, in the house today. All right, we've got Carrie J is in the house. Good morning. My name is Carrie. I hope I'm saying it right. Carrie or Carrie. We'll make sure we get that. But I'm grateful for my family and my business. We love it. How awesome is that in the house today? I'm putting up everybody I can. Martin Turnley is in the house. Good morning from Savannah, Georgia. Come on, Savannah, Georgia. Oh, Savannah. Spanish moss on the trees, the islands. Oh, my goodness. Woo, y'all making me mad. I need that beach, that energy in there, Martin. So send some love up for us, and we're going to see Savannah one day soon. All right, we've got coming up. Oh, it's still him. Oh, good morning. Grateful for the two. Oh, Martin's got 2 interviews this week. Not just one, but 2. Ashe. We got you, man. Sending you in there. We're speaking that you have double offers that are going to exceed everything you ever expected, and that your only challenge and conundrum is going to be which one to take that's going to be in alignment with how you feel. So we're speaking that manifestation with you today. Cindy's in the house. Good morning. Grateful for Infinity Fellowship. We're grateful for you too, sis. Great to see you. Great to have you in here, and everybody that's coming in from up the East Coast, we're welcoming. Jackson Michaels is in the house. Good morning from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Come on, D.C. I love it. We're seeing the East Coast in the house. Christiana Jones is in the house. Good morning. Christiana Jones from Nashville. Get this. Well, no. You ain't ready for this because you can't see the screen. From Nashville, North Carolina. From the Ville to the Ville. Y'all don't know about Nashville, North Carolina now. Come on, Nashville to Nashville. Come on in there. Tashana's in the house and the whole Lindsay family. I know y'all are there. Good to see y'all and the girls, of course. Taylor in Arizona. I'm grateful for my parents and getting a good job. I love it. I'm going to see the rest of that, Tony. I think. Okay, yeah, it cut off. We got you. Because that means that there's a standing ovation coming, right? So we're looking forward to seeing that Tashana was in the house. Yes, we got dots coming in the house today. Kevin, good morning to you, man. Good morning. Good to have you in the place. Tag your friends. Let them know we got a great Infinity today. It's great to be here with you. Trizana, Sister Staples is in the house. Grateful for peace, love, and light.
Yes.
Oh, I'm feeling the screen is tingling, y'all. Y'all are getting this. Tashana is there. Grateful for my parents who do a good job and my little sister. Come on. I love it. I'm glad we were able to get that one into the space today. Next, we have Michelle Mayberry. Good to see you, sis, down in Texas. Good morning. Grateful for my beautiful family and friends. Sending love to Infinity Fellowship. Rev and sis looking great in the blue. Hey! Hey! It's a blue day. Who knew? Christiana is there, grateful for God's grace and mercy. Awesome. Isn't it something?
Yes.
Isn't it great? When you operate in that vibration, y'all feel this?
Yes.
Everybody's chiming in. And what's happening is now I'm noticing the screen is lighting up because everybody's like, wait a minute. I'm grateful too. I'm grateful too. That's how gratitude is. It takes a spark, get the fire going. And that's what we're doing today. Destiny Muhammad is in the house. Harper's from the hood, Oakland, California, our resident superstar. Good grand risings to you and your beautiful family, and to you too, Sister Des. Congratulations on the fellowships and the artist in residency that you're doing. We're reading about you and seeing you all over the internet. It's just beautiful. I can't wait till we can ship you and Chris Well and that heart down here.
I know that's right.
And we just go in.
Go
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. Magala, Dr. Magala is in the house. Dr. Magala Bethune. Oh, we're going to have a great time today. I know. Good questions and conversations coming. Grateful for a new day. Grateful for you out there in L.A. I got somebody to connect you with. With some of y'all in L.A. Scholar to scholar, Doc. We got you. Terrell's in the house. And again, that wonderful Lindsay family. Talia and I, grateful for our ancestors. I can't wait to hang out with the girls. I think it's going to be fun to get the girls with the girls. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to do that. All right, Dr. Jerome Morris is in the house. Dr. Jerome says, hey, greetings, Infinity Fellowship family. Welcome, Reverend Dr. Monica Coleman. We love it. She's famous. And famous people like, for some reason, to come to Infinity because guess what? Our vibration is in that space, y'all. Y'all in that space, too. We got famous scholars already on the line. I love it. Can't wait to get to it. Jackson Michaels is in there, grateful for it, and this time of sharing. We're grateful for it, too. So, look, you talk, you have that conversation, you have that energy, and you say good morning. And we're going to get back around to that. We got some standing ovations coming up, but we want to welcome you into the space here at Infinity. And we want to let you know what Infinity is about, especially new folks, first timers, old timers, whoever you might be. It's time for us to do our statement of infinitude. And it answers the question, how do you get so many people together across different religious and faith lines to focus on the things that are important? Well, we call it infinitude. Sister Kaneetha Carr is going to come up and give that to us. So y'all send some snaps up into the air and send some energy into the space, and we are there. Ashe. All right, sis.
All right. Good morning, Infinity, and welcome into the Infinity Experience live online. So, two things we like to remind you here at Infinity what we're about. One, we don't tell you what to call or how to define the God of your own personal acceptance and understanding. That is an intensely personal and beautiful relationship. Here at Infinity, we affirm your unique connection. Number two, whatever you call that source energy, you'll hear us say God interchangeably with the universe, divine source. But what you see around you is the proof, baby, that it was showing off when you were created after the same image and likeness. And so now it's time to speak aloud the core agreements that bring us together at Infinity. We call that infinitude. Infinitude is defined in the dictionary as a state or quality of being infinite or having no limit. We have a unique mix of faith backgrounds at Infinity, but what centers us is the spirituality we all share in common. For us, infinitude is defined as infinity. Let me get my snap in with an attitude. And that attitude is gratitude. And the snap you just heard is the spiritual practice that gives us life and meaning. Snap is on your screen, and we recommend you take some time to meditate on both it and our statement of infinitude by visiting our website at myif.org. The essence snap is for spirituality that transcends religion and connects you to the God of your own understanding. The N is for nurturing of ourselves and others, mind, body, and spirit. The A is for action because we take action on our callings and walk in our divine purpose every day. And finally, this is important, the P is for the proof that our spiritual practices manifest fruit in our lives through the building and maintaining of healthy and prosperous families, relationships, careers, and dreams. We are grateful you all are here as unique manifestations of our Creator, the living, loving spirit of our commonality, the divine source of all creation, perceived by many names, yet known by only one energy. I invite you to join us in the affirmation of our statement of infinitude. We agree that we are beings of pure, eternal spirit, birthed from the creative potential of the universe, with all the powers of the Creator inherent within us. We embrace the innate goodness of humankind and an abundant creation that provides for us through the seeds that we plant in our everyday lives. We acknowledge that who we are is housed in a temporary biological organism, and as such, it is our responsibility to take care of it because it will only last for a precious window of time. As we nurture ourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, we commit to provide like acts of nurturing for our fellow brothers and sisters of the world we live in, embracing all regardless of religious faith, skin color, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic background. All are truly welcome at Infinity. We agree and accept that various religions exist as a unique opportunity for humanity to get to know one another through meaningful conversations that seek to explore the core concepts we share in common. It is the application of ancient wisdom, scientific discovery, and spiritual practices, both physical and metaphysical, that will lead us closer together as a human family. We commit to exist now and ever as a beloved community. Let it be so according to the many ancient terms of affirmation. Amen, Amin, Hotep, Shalom, Namaste, Ashe.
Awesome. It feels great. I love it. And reflect on that statement. Go to the website, pull it up, read it, and see what it means for you and where you fit in moving that energy forward. That is the energy of the Infinity Fellowship. This is the energy now of welcoming you to Infinity. That you are a first-time visitor, I'm going to encourage you to please type first time in the box so that people can shower you with love and energy. I guarantee you can't get any kind of love like you get here. I hadn't found it many places. I know it's abundant in the world, but in terms of Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, you're going to find a cup running over. So if we're not in person and we're digital, we're going to ask everybody to shower people with love who say they're first timers. So welcome them, send them muscle arms, send them hearts, all those wonderful things that you can do on the internet. Depending on your device, you can just tap a button or you may have to type it out. But we want to welcome our first time visitors in this space. And I say good morning again to you, Infinity members and friends. I'm Jeff Obafemi-Carr. I am the Chief Spiritual Officer here at the Infinity Fellowship and the co-founder as well. And we want to welcome you into this space where people make a very important quantum leap from simple religious doctrine to expansive spirituality. And this is where it happens. We are the core of consciousness, the apex of authenticity. And you know we do some different things at Infinity on first and second Sunday. But for those of you who've been watching our replays, you know we have our standard services, our spirituality Sunday, our nurturing Sunday. Third Sunday, like today, is If Speaks. And that's where you get to ask questions during the message. And we have an awesome guest today that you're going to want to load your questions up on and get ready for after we hear that presentation and that interaction. Then on fourth Sundays, we do yoga. So that's what makes it such a special place. We're going to marry you together, mind, body, and spirit. So at Infinity, I want you to know as a visitor that if you are a first timer, we see the 5 W's. We know who, what, where, when, and why you are. But those 5 W's together make us see you. They make it so we cannot help but to see you. But we want you to know that we see you for who you truly are. You're not just a human being who showed up today to have a spiritual experience. That's why some people do go to church. They want to have a spiritual experience. But guess what the real secret is? It's the other way around. You are a spirit that's navigating the human experience just like the rest of us. And so we hold our hands up to you in this moment. Turn to somebody, hold your hands out. Hold your hands up in that space, and let's look at somebody, put your energy into somebody, take a deep breath, exhale to release. Families, if you're together, hold your hands up to somebody. If you're a visitor, that you can receive this energy that we're giving you in this right now moment. So repeat after me. I see you, but you don't hear me though. I really see the real you. I see who you are. You are a divine manifestation of God's creation. I see what you are. You are a spirit. You're more than what's on the outside. You are a gift to me and to the entire world. I see where you are. You're right here in front of me. Well, I can let you know, if nobody else will, that you are not alone. I'm with you, and you are at home. I see when you are. You're in the right now, baby. You are so much more than your yesterday. I see why you are. You're here to learn, to grow, to embrace your dreams, and to celebrate your divine destiny. I know all this because I'm here to do the same thing. So we're going to help each other out. All right? I know the real you. And I see you shining today. I feel you shining today. I know you are shining today. So welcome to Infinity. Welcome home. Ashe, oh, hey, give some high fives out, y'all. Dance around if you feel it. Get up, get up. This is the moment. Take some gratitude. Hey. Take some gratitude. Hey. Yeah. Oh. Kanitha's gassing me up. Uh-oh. Y'all know where I was the other night. Yeah. Right. Y'all ain't ready for that. Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. I cannot confirm or deny that I may or may not be the seventh member of New Edition. The alternate. Y'all don't start a bad rumor. Yeah, Rev Jeff was the alternate member of New Edition. He was on the list to get in there. And I was in my own mind, everybody's own mind. You thought that you were going to be in that space. But yeah, look, I hope y'all are feeling great. I don't mind dancing with you. I don't mind dancing for you in that space because I'm really not dancing for anybody but myself in gratitude. I'm glad I can move this body. I'm glad that I can move this consciousness. I'm glad that I can be in a space like this. It is from that space of gratitude that we practice giving. So it is time for us to give together as a community. So as you're pulling out your phones, as you're pulling out your devices, as you're pulling out your checkbooks, however you give to infinity, we remind you that we give from a space of overflow. This is a space, this year is the year that we live from the overflow. So as we're giving in this space today, I am saying that I am personally grateful. The Infinity Fellowship is grateful. We exist because you are. And you are because we are a giving, loving community. So as we prepare our gifts today, those of you who are giving an offering, whatever God, the Spirit, the ancestors are moving you to contribute from a space of release, prepare that. For those of you who have adopted the powerful spiritual practice of tithing, if you have not adopted it, I'm telling you, there's a way that it will change your life. Taking 10% of what you get and turning it back to the space where you receive your spiritual food. And we are spiritual food for so many people around the world, a growing number of people. And because of that, we love to give in this moment. If you're watching on the replay, we love to give in this moment too. And we recognize and remember that everything is good. So take a deep breath here. Release. Take another deep breath. And release. Continue to breathe like this and recognize in this moment that money is simply an expression of how we feel about the world. If I walk into somebody's closet and they got 200 pairs of tennis shoes, then I know for a fact that they love tennis shoes and tennis shoes are important. If I walk in and see tons of books, I see the same thing. If I walk in and see spiritual alignment, if I walk in and see healed families and relationships, and a functional, wonderful community life, I know that it's a part of giving. And it's a part of that person's practice to say, this community is important. So let's prepare to give now. We're going to give from this high consciousness frame of good, frame of awesomeness. And we're going to say together our offertory affirmations. So we're going to bring that up on the screen. And together, I want everybody to focus your energy as we speak directly to spirit to supercharge our offering today. O limitless, abundant Creator, source of everything I possess, you have given me the gifts of life, breath, and creativity. You continue to provide for me without judgment or preference. And so I freely return these gifts to you with my whole heart, mind, and intention, knowing that as I give freely, with both remembrance and gratitude, the circle of abundance will be unbroken, and so it is. All right, 3 ways to give electronically. You can give via Cash App, $ Infinity Fellowship. You can give via PayPal, paypal.me/Infinity Fellowship, or international PayPal at infinitynashville@gmail.com. We got a slide coming up for you on that. You can also send it via mail to the Infinity Fellowship, 641 West Nocturne Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, 37207. We're going to bring those up. And as we do that, we're going to get you to say this together with us. Everything is good.
Everything is good.
Come on, everything is good.
Everything
Everything is
is good.
good.
Everything is good.
I got it.
I got it.
I got it good. Come on, let's give as we listen and we sing this song, Forgiven. Sing and get your thumbs going with me because I'm getting my thumbs going too, y'all. Everything is good. Come on, Sister Kenita.
Everything is good. Everything is good. Everything is good. Oh, everything is good. And I've got it. I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Hey, everything is good. Yes, it is. Everything is good. Oh, everything is good. Yeah, everything is good. And I've got it. I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Hey, everything is good. Yes, it is. In my life, everything is all around. Everything is good, and I've got it. I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Hey, everything is good. Yes, it is. In my life, all around, everything is good, and I've got it. I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Hey, everything is good. Yeah, everything is good. Yes, it is. Everything is good. Oh, everything is good, and I've got it. I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Hey, sing with me now. Everything is good. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Everything is good. Oh, everything is good. And I've got it. Hey, I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Oh, I've got it good. I've got it. Hey, I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Oh, yes, I've got it good. I've got it. Hey, I've got it. Oh, I've got it good. Oh, I've got it good. Yeah. Woo.
Awesome. Thank you, Sister Kenitha, as we are in the space today, as we are figuring out what's going on. We got a little blink in the tech, one of those things. But guess what? Sometimes those blinks do occur and they are real, but we're going to keep it going because guess what? That's what we do. So as long as we can hear, as long as you're clear, we're going to keep on moving and keep on pushing through. It's wonderful because technology, what I've learned and talking to other people who have had these glitches, it's difficult to do live stuff. So many churches have gone to taping on like Tuesday or Thursday nights and then editing and putting it up on the screen. We just love the live energy. And when you're doing live stuff, live things happen. And that's just part of it. So we are here. We're 100% live. We're 100% real time. And we appreciate your patience as your energy as we've expanded and grown. You're going to have new challenges. And we're happy to be here because we got the right folks with us during these challenging spaces. Finding out what's going on now in the world of Infinity, we're going to bring up our brother Tony I, who is going to do our announcement. So y'all give him some snaps as he comes up to let us know what's going on at the Infinity Fellowship. Yes, indeed. Come on up, Brother T.
Good morning, Infinity. One thing I had to say about when it comes to technology, it reminds me of a song. Y'all familiar with a guy named Jamiroquai? Virtual insanity now always seems to recover about this love we have for useless. I don't know the rest of the lyrics, it's all good. But that's all I know. Other than that, but I do want to say, good morning, Infinity. Now, if you got a manifestation you've seen in your life that you want to report as a standing ovation today, go ahead and type it into the chat box for us at this time, right now. Now, welcome to February. It is the second month of 2022, the year of attainment. Now, the definition of attainment is the action or fact of achieving a goal toward which one has worked. This is the year for the big payoff, baby. The big payoff. Revenge. That was lame. All right, so every single day, remember to speak aloud our daily mantra for the year. I know I have. And this here is the daily mantra for this year, which is, I live in the overflow. Now, have you kickstarted your personal meditation practice this year yet? Anybody? Yes, no, maybe? All the above? Now, if not, visit our online portals to find a number of brief guided affirmation meditations. Now, each Wednesday at 12 noon Central Standard Time, we release a new live meditation, and if you can't catch it at noon, you can pause for the meditation because at your convenience. Now, I'll say myself, I use it myself, and in my case, I'm driving when I'm doing it. So, of course, I'm not like, of course, got my eyes closed. I still pay attention to the road. So you can do it while you're driving, you can do it while, you're cooking, you can do it while you at home, chilling, whatever. Just do you. Now, whenever and however you join it, we offer this to you to support you in your spiritual practice throughout the week. Now, next week is Yoga Sunday. And every fourth Sunday, we clear the floor, and Rev Jeff leads us for Infinity's monthly Yoga Sunday service. Now, spirituality that supports the mind and the spirit is enhanced when we input positive practices into our physical bodies. Now, Yoga Sunday is for all levels, and I do repeat, all levels, from beginners to advanced. And Rev Jeff is also a trained certified yoga instructor, and some of y'all have trained or have actually been, trained or done yoga with him. Trust me, it definitely speaks for itself. So we get the best of the physical and spiritual world on fourth Sundays. Now join the growing number of people around the world who have been making a commitment to move, breathe, and stand in the right now. Now, that's next Sunday right here on YouTube and Facebook. Now, have you joined the Infinite Streamers Online Fellowship group? Yes? No? Maybe? Now, we have a Facebook group where we can talk during the week, share standing ovations, submit prayer requests, and fellowship with one another. The QR code is on your screen. We'll leave it up for a sec. Now, you can take a picture with your phone, join up today, and get to know all the members of Infinity from all over the world. And now, here comes the best part of today. We are now bringing Rev Jeff and Lady Kenitha back up because it's time for Standing Ovations.
Tune your vibration to a high elevation. It's time for the good news, our standing ovation.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Brother Tony. I appreciate that, man. First class.
Yes. All right. So our high energy at IF comes from our practice of snap. It's why we snap our fingers during this part of the service. We receive practical lessons and tools for our individual journeys of spirituality. We fellowship with like-minded
Just spell Coke backwards, and then people think you're speaking in tongues.
Nurturing. We take what we learn and apply it in our lives as action, and if we do these, then every week we see examples of that progress in our lives, and that's the fruit.
That's right.
So let us pause to enjoy a collective moment of manifestation and expansion. We'll call up your names as we receive them. When your name is called, we will snap our fingers,
Yes.
celebrate and affirm them, and then provide a collective out of this world standing ovation. Begin. Okay?
With a tambourine.
That's what's going on right now. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Ready?
I thought you were speaking in tongues.
Almost got my hustler.
I thought you were. I just like it. The spirit is there because that gratitude spirit will get with you sometimes. I know. Hey, all you got.
Got caught up in the
All you have to do, if you ever get caught up, just say, what is it? Coming in a Cadillac, leaving in a Honda.
Hey,
But if you say it
I'm
with a good beat under you, you ought to be all right.
should be all right.
I'm just telling you, I'm here. So standing ovations, whatever you got, go ahead and allow it to be, let's put it in the box so we can send you a shout out. And listen, when people give you a standing ovation today for something that they have manifested, especially as a result of the teachings that you've absorbed here or the support that you've gotten here as a community, we want to make sure that we pause to celebrate you. So I got my tambourine and we ain't playing today. So we're going to get ready for this ovation. So first we got Sister Keisha K. Renee in the house. Good morning, family. Grateful for a new year. Celebrated my 49th birthday, 2/12, and officially start my new year. All my clients came this week with no cancellations. Hey, happy birthday to ya, happy birthday to ya, happy birthday. Okay, I'll be ready for the high note next. I decided to go high. You know, when they go low, we go high. I'm gonna go low next time. Happy birthday, Keisha. Congratulations. No cancellations. Come on in the room. All right. I also had a couple of auditions I'm waiting to hear that I have booked. And we're speaking that they are booked and that the only thing you're waiting on now is the notification. So that's in there. Martin is in the house. Brother Martin Turnley, I want to send a standing ovation to my mother, Deborah Turnley. Not letting her stroke or any setbacks hold her back. Ashe. Come on, Mama Deborah. Come on, Mama Deborah. Keep walking, keep shining, standing on, moving through. We're speaking full recovery and healing in your life and celebration around the gratitude that we have in this space right now. I love it. Brother Kevin's in the house, Kevin Holmes. I want to manifest more meditation sessions. Come on.
Yes.
Practice saving more on my taxes and mastering my finances. Yes. Also being more grateful and living in it. Yes. That begins right now. I ain't going to preach a message, Brother Kevin, but it begins right now. Why? Because you attract what you are. You can't attract what you're not. You can't attract people who are operating in a mindset of abundance if you're not operating in a mindset of abundance already. You can't attract people who are loving. You can't attract people who are supportive if you're not already loving and supportive. So we're speaking that manifestation continues to walk in you right now, and that you are shining in all of those spaces, and that the people, places, and things that need to appear in your life are going to manifest out of expected and unexpected places. I ain't gonna get going because I got my tambourine, but I love that manifestation energy happening in the space today. Next up, we have Lakeisha Taylor. Hey, what's happening, Taylor family? Grand Rising, 47 years old on 2/22, 2022. So I will receive the happy birthday song previously sung for the other Keisha. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Yeah, I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna go low. When others stay high, I'm gonna go low. Not happy birthday, Keisha, and great celebration. Great alignment for 2022, the year of attainment. So the attainment of joy and peace and love in that space today. Awesome. Okay, you got any standing ovations I need to give to you, Sister Kenitha? Anything happening?
No, well,
We send a shout out?
Standing ovation for my grandmother who just turned 95. I think her birthday was last week. My father's mother. So that's pretty awesome.
In California.
California. So
Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
And of course, my standing ovation is coming up in about, maybe 3 minutes and 15 seconds or so, because we have a special guest in the house today. So that's going to be our standing ovation for an entire community. So tell us what to do, Mama. Oh, we got one more. Oh, we got one more. Oh, CL's in the house. Words cannot express the joy I feel of 50 rotations around the sun on tomorrow. Welcome to the Grown Man Club. Treese, what's up, man? Come on. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Ain't nothing like 50. Nothing like 50.
All right.
50 is when you know what you're doing and you're still young enough to do it.
There you go.
And then that's 40. 40 is you're young enough to do it, you're old enough to know what you're doing. But then 50, there's a third element. And that is when you don't give a crap about what other people think about what you're doing. That's 50. Oh, Lord.
All right. So now at this point, if you and ovations for today. So it is spoken, so it is received, and so it is. Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe. Thank you, Sister Kaditha. None whatsoever? None whatsoever? Let's see. We're going to be clear. We'll pause that and see. No, pause it and see, and let's just check on our feed. 1, 2. It's coming up now. It's coming up now, right? I'm clear. Can y'all hear me? Everybody's home. Give us a thumbs up. And somebody, yeah, it could be as simple as somebody got excited and hit the mute button, but we're here. So as we prepare, we're going to ask that you sing along with us in the space today. So we are going to prepare today, and we're going to go to the slide in a moment as we get our guest in place, and we're in the space, and we're going to make sure it happens. So you all, Sister Kaditha, if you don't mind, come on up and start us off on the come and go, and I'm going to go and help set up our guests in the space today. All right, let's go. We got it. Sister Kaditha's going to lead us in, y'all.
Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound. Oh, there is love in that land. There is love in that land. There is love in that land where I'm bound. Oh, there is love in that land. There is love in that land. There is love in that land where I'm bound. Oh, there is joy in that land. There is joy in that land. There is joy in that land where I'm bound. Oh, there is joy in that land. There is joy in that land. There is joy in that land where I'm bound. Oh, don't you wanna go to that land? Don't you wanna go to that land? Don't you wanna go to that land where I'm bound? Where I'm bound. Don't you wanna go to that land? Don't you wanna go to that land? Don't you wanna go to that land where I'm
Thank you, Sister Kanitha, for leading us in. We're grateful to have you to be in the space today. I am sitting in real life next to this morning's awesome If Speaks guest. We're just going to talk in a minute, and I just want to make sure that you can hear me. Dr. Coleman, I'm going to welcome you in and get you to say hello to everybody there, so make sure your mic is on and everything's great.
It's good to be here. I hope everyone can hear me.
All right, good. I think so. Are we clear? We in the yellows? Well, we'll get you. We'll make sure that we're on there. We're going to pay attention to that in a minute and make sure that you're clear. But I want to welcome everybody into the space today. We've got Dr. Monica Coleman, and you know, there's so many things that I could say about you that we would be here for weeks. So we're just going to say this is Reverend Dr. Monica Coleman, or Rev Monica. We're going to say that this is part one of many. But the first thing I want to do is get today's meditation. We want to make sure that we keep that tradition going. So we're going to go to the slide and go to today's meditation. It's from a very well-known scholar that we know in a wonderful volume that she wrote called Not Alone, The Reflections on Faith and Depression. The road from sick A to well B is not straight or paved. It winds. There are obstacles. You will fall on the path. Are you willing to get back up again and again? You will feel as if you're groping in the dark. Will you trust that there is light at the end? Until you get there, can you work with the shadows? You will need community. Can you trust those who love you? Can you hold tight with one hand and release with the other? You will have to trust in the process. You will need faith. Do you want to be made well? Go ahead and take about 3-4 good deep breaths on that one as you are reflecting on it. And that way you can get a screenshot, because you're going to want it. It's one of those. All right. And as you are taking that screenshot, as you are getting in that space of connection, continue to do so. Good. And let's come back so that I can tell you about who our guest is today. For those of you who do not know, I'm just going to read a brief bio. So that means that I'm only going to read the 6-page bio as opposed to the 40-page bio of Reverend Monica.
I don't have a 40-page bio.
You easily could. But let me read you this brief one. Dr. Monica A. Coleman is Professor of Africana Studies at the University of Delaware. She spent over 10 years in graduate theological education at Claremont School of Theology, the Center for Process Studies, and Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. Coleman has earned degrees from Harvard University, Vanderbilt University, and Claremont Graduate University. She has received funding from leading foundations in the United States, including the Ford Foundation, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship Foundation, among many others. Answering her call to ministry at 19 years of age, Coleman is an ordained minister in the African Methodist Episcopal Church and also an initiate into traditional African religion in the Yoruba tradition, or the tradition of Ifa. That is the short introduction. I want to say welcome to Nashville. So glad to have you in this space today. How was your trip?
Great. You know, it's welcome back to Nashville.
Yes, it is.
So it's good to be here. It's one of my homes.
Okay, great. And guess what? We're going to go through that brief little history because we met each other a few years ago. Back, my hair was black. I think
Yeah, mine too.
Slicker and fuller, we're in the space. We met each other back then, but you were in graduate school at Vanderbilt.
Yes, I was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And since then, you've gone on to just create so many great things that you put into the world. How would you describe yourself when people say, who is Dr. Monica A. Coleman? There's so many titles, but how do you describe yourself?
Yeah, I think I describe myself by my relationships. You know, I'm a friend, a sister, a daughter, a mama. You know, I guess a teacher, a mentor, a daughter of Oshun and Obatala, a minister. I think, you know, I think it's not that I think of I am what I do, but I don't think I am who I am without the relationships I have with other people in the world.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about your spiritual upbringing and the path that you've chosen as an adult. Because I think it would be minimalistic for me to say that you have a pluralistic view or you have all-inclusive view. That just wouldn't describe it, wouldn't aptly describe your journey. But tell us about your journey spiritually and where you started and where you are now.
I grew up Black Baptist in AME. That's the heritage of my family, right? For me, going to church, being religious was like brushing your teeth. It's just what you did. There weren't choices in it, but I wasn't unhappy about it. You know, I was a church kid. You know, Vacation Bible School, drama ministry, youth choir.
Yeah.
You know, all the things. My parents grew up in the same church, right? So both sets of my family went to the same church in Washington, D.C. That's where I was in the summers. You know how some people sent their kids back south? I went back east, and they were Southerners, right? So my parents went south and I went east. I was still raised by these Southern grandparents. So church and all day Saturday, church and all day Sunday. You know, as a kid, you don't like to sit still that long, but old ladies got candy, so, you know, it works out.
Yes. Oh, the candy
I don't know
lady.
where they get that
candy
from.
lady.
The candy
I remember
lady.
that. There's a candy lady at every
You
church.
know, in the purse, right?
You
Yeah.
the candy lady at Infinity, yeah.
You know, so I enjoyed church, right? I didn't think of there as being a big difference between different denominations growing up. You know, I knew there were Baptists, we were AME, and it was just like, what time is the church service? What songs do people sing? I didn't think much about it in terms of there being a difference or me having more allegiance to one than the other.
Okay.
When I went to college, I felt, I think, a bit more Baptist. My grandparents were Baptists, so I looked for Baptist churches, ended up having two kind of parallel religious experiences. I was in a Black AME church, and I was at Harvard, so I was in Boston area, Cambridge, that many people went to, many college students went to, no matter what they were raised, right? It's kind of the jumping place to be. They had a big college fellowship, you know,
yeah.
and the music was good, and it was a couple train rides away, and if we could gather up our pennies to get there, somebody would drive us home, you know?
Yeah, but they feed you too, you know.
Sometimes. There's a Popeyes nearby, though, right?
I got you. There you go.
And then I was also in Campus Crusade for Christ on campus, which was this more white Southern evangelical experience. And I grew a lot because I think I grew up very much where my church experience was very social justice oriented, very community active in the community. And kind of what you believed was taken for granted. No one talked about, what do you believe? Are you saved? Like, you're here, clearly you're saved, right?
Oh, wow. Okay,
But
yeah.
an evangelical organization talks more about, these are the things we believe. This is how we nourish our faith. I didn't grow up hearing things like personal relationship with God. That was not language I heard in my church, so I got to hear that and, you know, kind of learn more about what it meant to read and study the Bible for myself and in depth, and to have a relationship with others that was like a disciple or discipler. And I grew a lot in that. I think I kind of ignored the evangelical part. It was there, but it didn't make sense to me. I was like, why am I going to go share Christianity with people on the other side of the world when I can go one train stop and make sure people aren't hungry, right? So I still had a very kind of social justice thing that the organization didn't have. And I was like, well, that's fine if you want to do that, but that's not my thing. And so those very much fed into kind of my religiosity at that time, because I was active in both, and they were kind of parallel in some ways. And there were some people who overlapped, like three, right? Not a lot of people.
Yeah, because obviously you're changing circles, you're going to change people.
Right.
But there's people who
For the
stay
most part.
consistent.
Yeah, for the most part. And so that very much nurtured my spirituality. And I didn't see women clergy until I went to college. There weren't women clergy in where I grew up. If you liked going to church, when I was a kid, if you were a boy, they say, maybe you'll be a minister one day. And if you were a girl, they say, maybe you'll be Sunday school superintendent one day.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yes.
Minister wasn't a
Right.
career option for girls where I grew up. So I went to college, I saw women clergy, and they were like regular people. And I saw, because I was in a city that had a lot of theological schools, I saw people who were 22, 23, and they were clergy, and they were like regular people. Because I hadn't seen young people clergy until I went to college. That's just not how my hometown was. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, good for them.
Yes.
It
Good
looks
for
really
them.
hard.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I felt a call to ministry, and I was like, oh, let's just ignore that for a little while. But then I had kind of realized when I know what I think God wants me to do and I don't do it, a lot of other things go wrong.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, I don't want things to go wrong for too long. So, but I think of myself as God is putting me in a position where I could hear, right? Where I could see that there were women clergy, I could see that there were young people clergy, and it was possible. And so I was like, okay. 'Cause I would think of it and I would be afraid. And finally, I kind of thought of it, and I wasn't afraid. And I was like, okay, here we go. But of course, I didn't know what I was getting into. Just like, okay, let's.
Yeah.
Yes, you just say yes.
The ministry, right?
But you don't know
yes,
what you're
you
saying
say yes.
yes
Yeah, you
to.
don't know what you're saying yes to.
And I did have a sense of the level of sexism and patriarchy and ageism in ministry, and they were all there.
That's honest. Keep it real.
And,
Keep it real. Yeah.
I stayed AME because I felt they were less patriarchal toward women, not unpatriarchal, just less than others. They had a longer history of female clergy.
Okay.
But, you know, doctrinally, I don't think I realized the differences doctrinally or theologically till I went into ministry. Till I was like, oh, these churches are structured differently. They organize leadership differently, Baptists versus AMEs, for example. They have some different ideas about really just a couple things, and about, you know, baptism, et cetera. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine with either one. You know, I understood them both.
Yes,
And so I began that journey to ministry and faced all those obstacles I was just telling you about. But then I was like, oh, I have some questions. And my major was African American Studies, right? Focusing on literature. But I was like, I would kind of take course at divinity school because I wanted to know some things. I was like, I have questions. And so I went to divinity school, and I loved it because I had questions, and you don't get answers, right? I say this as a
Right, but you have people who are open to questioning,
Well,
right?
what you get is more information by which to answer your own questions.
Good. That's scientific.
Right. It doesn't.
Sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson. The more information you have,
Yeah,
the better.
like,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't teach you how to be a minister,
Yes.
which people sometimes think it will, but it gives you knowledge and experiences, and if it works well, some leadership, you know, in helping you to discern those things, right? And that is what I experienced in divinity school. And I was like, I didn't know there were so many different subfields of religion. Like, I knew there was like Bible and church history, but I didn't know there were like other things like theology and ethics and worship and homiletics. And I was like, this is cool. They should tell people about this. And I felt a home in theology. But as you know, I also had an active life in ministry and in local activism. And so when I finished my degree, I had gone straight through. I was tired of school. And I got attached to being in Nashville. And to being, you know, I kind of found my path in ministry. I thought it would be campus ministry. Then it was like, oh no, it's not. And I was like, well, Jesus was a teacher, so maybe teaching is ministry. And I thought it might be pastoring, but no, it's not. I discovered, it sounds funny now, but I grew up in a church. I think many of my churches are still the same way, where what is most valued is pastoral ministry.
Sure,
even though there are
it's structured that way.
Right, there are many other kinds of ministry.
Sure.
And so when you don't go into pastoral ministry, people don't really know what to do with you.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
It's just structured that way. And I very early on realized that was not my calling. Right, to preach every Sunday and do all the things. I can do some of the things. I can. It just isn't my calling.
So why we were laughing when it was like, oh, I got to adjust the mic and the light and all that stuff at the same time.
Right.
We were joking yesterday. It's like, you know what they call that, Monica? They call that pastoring, right? It's called pastoring.
Like, I like to support the people who do that.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
indeed.
And so I enjoyed teaching. I kind of found kind of my lane. You know, I ended up as you know, I became a survivor of sexual violence and organized a church response to sexual violence in the greater community. Then later wrote a book about it. The book is much more organized than I was. But I learned.
To do that for us.
Like, this is what I would have done had I known what I was doing.
Good.
I did it, but that's the order I would have done it in.
Is this the Dina Project?
The Dina Project.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Which you can find Monica A. Coleman, we're going to put her title up to there with her books or with her site. But if you go to MonicaAColeman.com after service, you can see all of the wonderful books she's written, all of the speaking engagements, all the online courses she has. We're going to throw that in to make sure that you know that people know how awesome you are. But yes, so right back where we were, you survived sexual violence, you wrote about it, and then this contributed to that ministerial path.
Very much so. I mean, I had it's a traumatic experience, right?
Sure.
So I had all the characteristics of a traumatic experience. A crisis of faith, a crisis of self, a crisis of embodiment, like all the things. And, very much through support services and a great faith community, was able to kind of knit myself back together in a whole way, and wanted to offer that to other people. And so I found ministry there, and it was hard work, and I loved every minute of it. It was very underpaid, very hard work, long hours, low money, great reward, great rewarding work. And I also worked in domestic violence programs. I worked as a community organizer. We worked together for a little stretch of time as community organizers.
We share that history with former President Barack Obama.
Right.
We both were community
But it wasn't
organizers.
sexy until Barack Obama did it.
Right. It was. Oh no, it was not. Community organizing.
It was not.
It was not. Then it became cool.
Right.
Barack made it cool.
Yeah, it wasn't cool.
It wasn't cool.
It was good work.
It was great work. It was fulfilling
It was
work.
fulfilling work, but it was underpaid and long hours.
Gosh. Yes, indeed. Yes.
But it was good work. And then I really felt in the midst of that, I did not have good religious answers to the questions I had and to the questions the people I was working with had.
Yes.
Yes. My tradition had not given me anything I felt was adequate or respectful to say to people in deep pain. And I felt like there had to be an answer, right?
Yes.
Like faith is important to me, so like kicking faith to the curb was not really an option for me. And I had read a bit about process theology as a graduate student at Vanderbilt. Not much, but a little bit. And I wanted to know more. So I ended up working on that in my doctoral work at Claremont Graduate University. And this is something I don't talk about much, but the transition was very hard because I had gone from a very grounded activist community life to like reading 1,000 pages of philosophy a week.
Oh, wow.
And I missed it.
Yeah, the connection with people, right?
People. I
Yes.
knew I wanted to do this. I knew this was what I had to do to learn what I wanted to learn. But I was really lonely, right? And I'm really lonely, and I wasn't with my people, and I was used to being with people I knew and had, become friends with and community. So it was definitely like, I hadn't anticipated that at all. So I would definitely say a sacrifice I didn't know I was making.
Yes.
I kind of knew intellectually, like, I won't be doing this, I'll be doing that. But I didn't know how it would feel, right? And I kind of tried to recreate what I had in Nashville there, which didn't work at all.
Wow.
Just a different kind of environment. I had different commitments, right? I mean, you couldn't get Kant on tape. These were the days of tape and CD.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. Tapes and CDs.
I had to be reading,
that's right.
And these are the kind of texts you don't read once. You have to read them 2 or 3 times to understand that. I hope all my grad students out there hear that.
Make notes.
But I was excited because I was learning. I like to learn. I like to learn new stuff. I think I always do, right? I still like to learn new stuff. And so I was learning new things in an environment that, again, was a little hostile in a different way, right? This was an environment where people weren't clergy, right? They weren't religious. They were studying religion, but they weren't religious. They weren't religious leaders.
Sure. Which you'll find in a theological space.
You can,
won't
right.
find, there were people who are not necessarily there to train to become a pastor.
Right. Like my degree is philosophy of religion, but even most of my professors, they just weren't they weren't clergy, right?
Yeah.
So just a different kind of. We're bringing something different to the table. Also, a field that was very, very white male, which I didn't know for some reason. I just didn't know it, which is good because I don't know if I would have done it. But I mean, I would be the only black person in my classes and one of 3 women.
Wow.
And so, which I didn't feel that my professors treated me poorly because of that.
Right.
But I had ideas that nobody else understood. because I'm putting what I'm learning in conversation with African religions, with Native American religions.
Oh, sure.
With, right?
You're bringing all of who you are
right,
to the
with
table.
liberation and justice commitments, which nobody else around me
Right.
had. And they were like, well, that's interesting. I guess you can do that, right? They just didn't fully understand my work, but they didn't stop me from doing it either. They said, try it. They're like, are you sure you can do that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So that it was challenging in that sense, but it was also what I brought to the table. And that became, and so what I studied, I believed. So I guess that's part of why it comes under the spirituality question, because these were ideas that were interesting to me, but they were also things that I believed. And both in terms of, I guess, the integration of Black church, of social justice activism, of traditional Yoruba religion, which is part of my work, of Afrofuturism, but no one called it Afrofuturism then, right? Afrofuturist work,
Yeah, we've
and
got to get to that too.
process
That's right.
theology. So I would say that was, where I was, and then I graduated, moved around a bit, graduated, got jobs, worked, loved teaching, loved training, young people, loved training people for ministry, loved training people for religious academic leadership. Because I had good experiences in those for the most part, and I liked getting to contribute to someone else's experiences in that. And I continue in ministry, right? You still writing, preaching, teaching. To me, all of those are ministry. If you're a teacher, you know that you do a lot of ministry with the meetings in the office, right? Like that's the pastoral care,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I wasn't doing full-time ministry the way I had, right? And I knew at some level I wouldn't again, but I saw ministry where I was, right? And I think for me it's very much about breaking silences and writing and speaking about topics that a lot of people didn't write and speak about, whether that was sexual and domestic violence, whether that was about mental health, which isn't easy. I mean, I would feel the calling, and I would be like, no, God, I don't think we should do this. And God would say, I think you should. And I'm like, no. I mean,
Right.
like I'm very clear that I
pushback.
don't think you're coerced. I don't think God coerces us. God's like, I would like you to do this. And I'm like, I hear you, and I don't think that would be a good idea for my career right now. And God would say, I think you should do this. And I'm like, do you know what you're asking me to do? Do you
Right.
know what kind of impact that's going to have? And God was like, I think you should do this. And I was like, why? And then I really felt the response was because you can. And then I was like, okay, I get that. That it was something I could do, that it didn't crumble me, that it was something, I could do it. And that God gave me what I needed to do it, and that it would somehow be okay. So I'm still bargaining with God, because this is how me and God are.
Well, let me insert something in there, because this is important. So transition-wise, a lot of people, there's a natural progression that you go through when you're seeking as a human being, and you're seeking to know more. And in this digital age especially, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like I tell people now who they want to Google E5.
There was
or
no
they wanna
Google.
We didn't have
Google.
Google, right? Or you want to study, you have to have an immersive experience. Like right now, people can go get a chart of all the orishas. They can go and study the Kemetic energy and just Google it and come up with hieroglyphic translations and transliteration devices online. All of those deep study things we had to actually immerse ourselves in when you're talking about the 90s, early 2000s. But some people might look and they say, wait a minute, I think I just heard Baptist AME, process theologian, and something about Ifa. So tell us about this space of Reverend Monica in a traditional African religion. And I guess I'd say, like the young people say, how'd that happen? How you get to that?
Well, it happened early on. I just didn't always recognize it, because I didn't grow up in it to know the cues, right? And I mean, I would definitely say it's part of my heritage, my cultural heritage, my spiritual heritage. But I took a course in African religions when I was in college, and I had an incredibly demanding professor, Randy Matori. He's great, but it was painful at the time. And he was very, it was important to him that his students really learned a lot of the minutia of Yoruba and Yoruba-based traditions.
Okay.
Right. So, so I learned a lot about Orisha, a lot about different, just just to pass the class, right?
Sure,
we did a lot of reading. That was just how the course was structured, and it was interesting. And I thought that's cool, and I didn't think much about it. And then this is still probably around the time I was ordained, because Methodists have a 4 to 5 year ordination process.
Come on, Methodist. Okay.
Right? From when you're licensed to preach to like when you're like, you can do all the things.
Yes.
And so somewhere around the end of that process, I had a dream. And I recognized Orisha in this dream. But I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know you're supposed to tell anybody. And who do you tell? So I just thought, well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And I was doing West African dance, which I talk about in Bipolar Faith.
Yes.
And this part isn't in Bipolar Faith, right? And, you know, we were in the same communities.
Yes.
And so I think I had just mentioned in passing to someone else I was dancing with, who was one of the leaders of the local Ifa community at the time, that I had this dream, and she was like, "Wait, you're supposed to tell someone." I'm like, "I didn't know I was supposed to tell somebody."
Right.
And so,
we don't know that.
right, I
part
didn't
of it.
know.
Yeah.
So I told her about the dream, and she said, "Oh, you need a reading." And I'm like, "Okay." And you know, people knew me as Reverend Monica,
Yes.
right? I was in that time, and also I was vegan, right, which is not very common in Nashville in the 90s.
No, not in the 90s.
Right.
I think
And-
that's when you're making your own homemade patty
Everything.
out of rice and beans and everything. Now you
Right.
go get beyond an impossible.
No, there was none
I'm
of
like,
that. None of
no,
that.
it's none of that. You boil
There's
the beans.
one store we went to.
One store, Sunshine, I think on Belmont.
Yep,
yeah,
Sunshine.
absolutely.
I used
Yeah.
to work at Sunshine.
Used to work at Sunshine. Yeah. Oh, that.
Right,
man,
back in the
That was
day.
the only place. Yeah.
Right. So what was nice, but because that she said, "Oh, bring an offering of gin." Like she thought, like she asked me, like, okay, I felt like it was very much working with who I was and what I could do.
Yes.
Right. And so I got this reading. I actually found the notes to that reading, like when I moved recently. So I still have it. And what I remember from the reading at that time was, you know, I remember like the Orisha part, but what I remember very clearly was, you're not supposed to just study this. You're supposed to live this. And I said, "Oh." That was it. I said,
You
"Oh."
know, yeah. Well,
And-
that's a long, yeah.
Right? I was like, I hear you. I don't disagree with you, but I have plans. Right? Like there's a plan here. I'm a person who likes to plan my work and work my plan, right?
Yes.
I have a trajectory.
Yeah.
Right? There's a career to have.
Yeah, that's right.
There's some degrees to have. I have
Oh,
some
yeah.
books to write. So I hear you,
Right.
but I have a plan.
Right. With the best laid plans. I
Right.
got you.
And so I was working my plan, happily working my plan, but I always felt connected to Ifa as well. And I felt connected to dance because it wasn't like I was dancing for fitness, it was prayer, and I knew that, right? And it was like the prayers of my ancestors, and I knew that very much as well. So I'm going around my life, moving in different communities, you know, different cities around the country. Not forgetting Ifa. I taught about traditional Yoruba religion when I taught African American religions and African derived religions. I had connected to a community when I was doing my doctoral program. It just was like literally logistically difficult because of the sprawl of LA to participate in the way I would have wanted to.
Sure.
And so I guess it was always there in the background, I guess I would say. And fast forward many years, and many years, and to probably 7 years ago, more than 7, a little more than 7, 8 years ago, I was introduced to the leader of my community in Los Angeles through a common friend who is not, you know, who's Muslim, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "I met this person, you should meet them." I was like,
And
"Okay."
that's a very LA thing. We're
It
trying to
is
bring
so
that to
LA.
Nashville, but it is very LA to say, hey, a Muslim person just sent me
Introduce-
to a Baptist church. And the
Right.
Baptist guy said, hey, there's a guy over here who's doing elbows. You're going to really want to see him. It's just
Right.
so
But-
cosmopolitan.
Right,
You know, we're
right.
getting there.
And my colleague, right, knew,
Yeah.
and my friends knew that this was something that was important to me, I believed, and said, "Oh, you know, I met somebody, but you know, everybody wearing Ilekes ain't someone you can trust, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
you can't
No, just-
Google
Right.
Ifa communities, you couldn't
Right.
then, right?
It's the same thing
Right, you
with
have to-
everything, with religion.
Right, right.
Just because somebody has the outer accoutrement doesn't mean that they're
mean-
practicing.
Right.
As you said, you're supposed not just to study this, but to live it.
Right, so
Yeah.
you don't really necessarily know where, you don't always know where to find it.
Yes.
Especially if you're working, like a job,
Yes.
and like raising kids, like it's not like you got all this spare time to go hunting folk down, right, around drum circles or something, right? So I was introduced to my Baba. He's like, "Oh, you should get a reading." I'm like, "Yeah, it's been a long time." And it was funny when I got that reading, he was like, "Whoa." Because even before the reading began, he was like, you have been doing all the things, you just didn't know it, right? So like everything in my house was white. I had created these rituals that were completely Ifa rituals that I just did what felt right to me.
Sure.
You know, and so he, you know, there are various steps to initiation, and he's like, you've done so many of them, and he would say like, you're already an awo, you're already a priest, you're already a minister, and I'm just looking like, okay, but you know, it felt like home for me,
Sure.
and it felt grounding to me, and I like to learn new things, and this was something I knew intellectually, but didn't know experientially. And so it's kind of, so in that sense, it's always kind of been there. And because I'm not the kind of Christian who thought Jesus was the only way to God.
Sure.
So there was no problem for me.
Sure.
Even though I was in an evangelical organization, I thought, well, this is what I believe.
Yes.
But I never felt like this is what everyone has to believe, which
Sure.
is kind of where I broke with the evangelical
Right.
part.
Well, yeah, you're eventually going to.
Right.
And sometimes it's like that I've found with all religions, even in my own journey through various religions and the study and the immersion in that, is that I always left when I reached the core space where people were saying we're right and everybody else is wrong.
Right.
And that can happen with everybody, from African religions to Eastern religions. People can get in a space where they can say, oh, I found the truth, I'm right, everybody's wrong. And it creates basically the same kind of environment that many of us were trying to escape.
Right, and so I
coming
grew up very religious, but I didn't grow
Yeah.
up thinking this was the only way. I just
Right.
didn't. I'm not saying
Naturally.
no one else who grew up next to me might have thought that. I just didn't think
Sure.
that. Right, and of course, as I began to have friends of different religions, I never thought they were wrong. I just was like, well, good for you.
Yes,
you know?
that's a good one. Yeah.
And I would study sometimes and be like, okay, I had a lot of friends from my childhood who converted to Islam. It took Shahada, and I was like, okay, I learned about it, but it wasn't for me. Right, so I was aware there were other religions always, and felt respectful about them, would learn about them, and especially through friendship, and enough to be respectful and good friend to my friends. But I think I never vibed with the proselytizing part of Christianity. Right, I just felt like this is my path. Right, my professor Sally McFaig at Vanderbilt would say, "I look Godward through Jesus." Right, I think my language was like, it's my primary way of knowing God. Primary meaning first, not
Yes.
central.
Yes.
Right, this is the first
Good.
way I came to know God, and there are many ways to know God. Right, you look at a sunset, how do you not know God? Right, you see a baby smile, how do you not know God? Right,
Yes.
so for me, it's always, I'm a big theist. I'd rather have 400 gods than no God, right? I like God. I like God.
I like God.
I like God a lot. And I, like I said, so I intellectually knew Ifa, and I came to be a part of a community and to learn more of the ancient wisdom and practices of Ifa, which eventually led to what would translate as priesthood, but initiation.
Okay, good. Look, I'm going to pause on that because I want to shift into some important questions and some conversations, because I know those of you who are at home, you're going to want to type in some questions. This is a phenomenal book that hopefully you have. If you don't have it, you've seen it. It's going to be on Dr. Coleman's site. It's her latest work. Greatest work. It came out in
greatest,
hardback. Yeah, I'm getting an extra copy for Infinity autograph today. But it's called Bipolar Faith, A Black Woman's Journey with Depression and Faith. Very honest, very transparent. There are some things in this book that you're going to feel. It's going to give you some understanding. There's going to be some sympathetic moments, but there are going to be a lot of empathetic moments for a lot of people out there in the world. And the question I would ask to you, Monica, I'm just going to ask this to get started. Bipolar Faith. First, tell me about the title.
Well, when you're working with publishers, that was not the original title.
Okay. Good. Well, publishers want it's catchy, and that's what publishers want.
You don't get to own your title. You
Yeah,
get to talk about the title with them. So that was not what I had initially titled it. And we had I remember maybe an hour-long conversation with the editor. They're like, "How about this?" I'm like, "No." I said, "How about this?" I'm like, "No." So I don't know how we came to. It was somehow in that hour-long conversation. It fit. It sounded right in our mouth, right? And of course, it's about bipolar 2, number 2. And I wanted to, of course, in many ways, talk about There weren't memoirs about living with bipolar 2 at all. There weren't memoirs, there were very, very few memoirs that talked about the experience of any kind of depression and spirituality.
Yes.
And so I think it was because I was putting those two together, faith, depression, and bipolar 2, the diagnosis, that it made sense to call it bipolar faith. So it's not that my faith is bipolar, right?
Oh, no,
but
no.
it's the faith of having one has while living with depression.
Yes,
That
and
faith
it's
journey.
enough. There's enough of that in that title for you to literally crack the book open. So, I mean, congratulations on coming to the agreement with
Thank
the
you.
publisher to find a title that is going to bring people in. But I'm going to ask this is a very basic question because, again, and I'm talking to the middle out there, we've heard about everything that you've done. We've seen this, and people who have clicked open a second window and gone to check on some things, they've seen some things too. They say, whoa, oh my gosh, she's all this. This is a real simple question that holds a lot behind it. It, for the average person out there, doesn't make sense. How are you able to do all that you just discussed about your life and have depression too? That doesn't seem to fit. And again, I'm just asking you because you're going to bite on that. But
That's a fair question.
it's a fair question. How do you do all of that with depression? When people think about depression, stereotypically, it's I'm just going to stay in the bed all day.
There's a lot of
And
that.
that's all. And
There's a lot
right,
of
there's
that.
some of that in there, right?
There's a
The
lot
early
of that.
signs.
Not in the book because it's not really fun to read, but in life, there's a whole lot of staying in the bed and not
So
going
then
anywhere.
how have you been able to navigate? When did you first, there's some experiences going back to, even with your grandfather and the trauma that was in the home coming up, but how did you navigate, how do you navigate life now in dealing with this? And when did you finally say, I'm going to go and get a diagnosis and get help for this?
There's a whole bunch of different questions for
I know.
me, right?
I figured.
I think, you don't know your own experience isn't normal unless you talk to people who have different experiences, right? And so I need, like, an example, my kneecaps dislocate. I didn't know until I was a certain age that everyone's knees did move back and forth. Kneecaps did move back and forth across their leg,
Gotcha.
right? Because who looks at other people's knees? Like, my knees are my knees, right? So I knew I was sad is in certain parts of my childhood and growing up years. I don't know that I thought everyone else was sad, but I did know that sad wasn't good, right? Like, I didn't enjoy it, and I thought that it was something that I should hide from other people, right? And so I tried to. Of course, it seeks out, but I tried to. And of course, you'll see, incredibly unsuccessfully
Okay, yes.
throughout my life, or at least to the people closest to me, right? And I didn't have a language, right? This was not things that people talked about in the 70s and 80s, let alone before then in that language. And it's definitely not something Black people talked about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, maybe some of my white friends talked about it and were like, yeah, that's a white people thing.
No.
Right? It was not
Right.
something that we talked about in my communities, at least, and not in that language. There weren't all these questions about how's your mental health. People didn't ask that. They're like, look, you're fed, you're not hungry, you live indoors safely in a good neighborhood. Like, we have done our parenting job, right?
Right,
Because
there you go.
their parents couldn't always ensure that,
Good,
right?
yes.
So I get that. But I think as I got older, like got through college and just had really difficult experiences with depression while still doing things. Even
Yes.
I didn't know why could I still do these things and still be very, very sad at the end of the day.
So you can be functional
I
and be,
was,
de-
yeah.
and be
So
dealing
I
with
am what some
depression.
people call a highly functional depressive,
Gotcha.
right? Where I can do a lot of things and they're genuine to me, right? I'm not faking it.
Sure.
Until I can't, right? So to me, I'm aware of all the things I can't do. And the things that I do that other people might see as, that's a lot, that just feels normal to me, right? So what clinicians might call hypomanic, I call normal Monica.
Okay.
Right? 'Cause that's
And you've
normal
leaned
Monica
into
to
that.
me.
You've accepted that.
Right.
Part
yeah.
of that is
But I've had
accepting
to
you.
understand, like, no, actually, that's not normal. Like, this is not where most people are here, and I'm, like a little more frenetic at
Okay.
times, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. But I had to just trust people on that because that's not how it feels to me.
Okay. I got you.
But I think at the point you're like, this sadness thing is not sustainable. Like, I need some help. I want to work through some things. You know, I mean, I think everybody black over age 10 could use therapy just from being in the U.S. I mean, right? So
good point.
forget
Good
all
point.
of the other particular things you might experience. Like
Yeah, just from being on TikTok.
right. I
everybody,
mean,
yeah.
right. You know, so, you know, and then I was like, oh, I'm in school. I should get therapy while it's good and free. Right through, and I tell all my students this, like, get you to the, you know, the campus health, mental health services.
Yes.
Because it's the freest therapy you're going to get.
That's a good tool for our college
It is.
students
College
out there.
students, grad
Make that note,
students.
all of that.
You know, just check in, even if you feel like you're fine, check in part because these are dehumanizing experiences too. You know, so even if you're great, you could use some support, right? And so I knew I needed some help and the things I wanted to look at. But I don't know that I thought this is depression or I need someone. And I didn't always have therapists who diagnosed me, right, with depression. They just said, well, let's talk about the issues at hand.
Yes.
Right. And so bipolar 2 for me functions as being highly productive. You know, like stretches and stretches of being very productive, being very content, happy, and then months stretches of not being so much. I'm still doing things, but it's not what I would call my normal level of productivity or ability or let alone happiness.
Yes.
Right. And I think some of that functionality comes from, well, like you kind of have to, like somebody's got to go make the donuts, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Somebody got to pick that
somebody
kid
got to
up
pay
from
the
school.
bills,
Yeah.
right? Somebody's got to do the things. Like sometimes like, there was no plan B, right? So
Yes,
it's like
okay.
there's
This is so real. Real
right,
talk. I love
right,
it. It's
you
real. I
know?
love it.
So I got to stay on the plan because I don't have another idea. If this doesn't work, I hadn't picked up a plan B. You know, I mean, now I'm plan B, C, and D. But at the time, I was like, there's plan A. So I have to work with plan A.
Okay.
And so I would just kind of push through it.
Yes.
Right. But it was still hard. I still had, you know, friends who would see the sadness, people I would lean on, even before getting, you know, a good diagnosis. So the question is, you asked me, how did I
You just
come
went
to
through,
it?
like, you basically you've tied it up in a beautiful, but you're an excellent storyteller and your memory is just amazing to me. But you tied it together because people do ask, how do you do all of this and still be depressed?
Right.
You know, but you said it. There are those tools, the diagnosis, the therapy, and also recognizing where you are in the world.
And I think this is what I was thinking of when you asked the question. There was a point where I had to take it seriously because I knew, like, I have sadness.
Yeah.
And then I had to come to the terms, like, this can take you out.
That's good.
Like,
Monica.
I have to stop. I don't know, how do I say this in non-profane ways?
No, you can say, this is infinity.
Right.
We don't have a,
like,
yeah,
I can't keep fucking with this.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly,
Like,
yes.
this will,
Eventually.
right, this
Yeah.
is going to take my ass out.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
like, if I keep being depressed and keep, you know, I'll become suicidal. If I become suicidal, we have problems.
That's right.
And I have been suicidal. And so I got to this point in my late 20s where I was like, I have to really stop playing with this because I was just functioning. I was functioning.
Yes.
And I had to be like, stop, listen and learn. And I had to really learn, do research about mental health, like I did research about everything else.
Yes.
I had to learn how it was with me, because there's depression in general, but everyone's different.
Yes.
So what is depression like for me? What do I need to be well? How do I set those things up when I feel well so that when I'm not well, they're there, right? What kind of, I would call them spiritual practices, do I need to do to be okay?
Yes.
I don't like that I have to do them. I am salty about it. Trust and
But
believe.
that's what spiritual
Right,
practice
but
is.
you do it anyway.
That's why they call it a practice,
Right.
right? It'd be like spiritual mastery. No, sometimes you got to
It's
get on the
practice.
yoga mat. You
Yeah.
got to meditate. You got to
Right. And for
smudge
some
yourself.
people,
You
it might
gotta
be
do the
optional.
yeah.
But there's some things for me are not.
Right.
Right. There are things that keep me whole, keep me okay. And so when I mean, so there had to be that point where I had to be like, okay, this is something I live with and something I have to learn. And I don't know if I say become friends with, but at least be on speaking terms with.
Yes.
Right?
Indeed. It's a part of you.
Right. This is
Yeah.
a part of who I am. And I probably don't even know who I am without it. It's just a part of me. But we have to, I can't pretend it's not. and then it comes sneak up on me and try and take me out when I got
Yes.
shit to do. I got
Yes.
plans, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So we got to be cool about it. And I have to be
Yes.
like, look, how are you doing today? This is how I'm doing today. This is how we're going to put you over here and be okay. And so I think that was a big point where I really said this, I had to really own it.
Yes.
And it was in owning it that it stopped owning me.
Oh, that's good, Coleman. That's good. Oh, own it before it owns you. I'm gonna pause there because I can feel the screen scrolling, and I know people have questions. This is If Speak. So listen, if you have a question of Reverend Dr. Monica Coleman, I call her Reverend Coleman. I call her Coleman,
You call me-
actually.
yeah.
I call her Coleman. I always have
You know,
Coleman.
you always have.
I always have. So
Like the only person.
but I like that.
Yeah.
That's our relationship. Then there it is. Like I got that name nobody else calls you by, so you know it's me if you hear me on the phone.
Right.
Coleman. Even if I'm sounding crazy from somewhere else. But I have some questions and I want to get to a couple of them. If you have one, type it in briefly so that we can get to it, and we'll get through them as quickly as we can. It's been an awesome discussion so far, and I know there's so many rich things out there. Our first question comes from Brother Thomas Sheffield. Awesome. Hey, Rev Dr. Monica, how did you know your calling as you started your path? You had so many options available. How did you know, or what method did you use to hear from God?
That's a good question.
Great.
And I'll add in there's not one calling, right? The calling comes again and again, and it changes over time, which nobody told me. So I'm going to tell you. It's not like you call once, right?
Yes, that's
because
true.
you grow and change.
Yes.
But I think this is the very evangelical part of me, right?
Come on.
You spend time with God, and that's how you learn God's voice, right? Whatever that practice is for you, whether that's reading the Bible, whether that's praying, whether that's reading great spiritual teachers and mystics, but spending that time with God, to use that language, however you do, it helps to cultivate God's always calling, but it helps to cultivate hearing it.
Yes, there
and
you go.
recognizing
Come on.
it
That's right.
as
That's right.
God. And so, I had a kind of dialogical relationship like the Hebrew prophets did, right? God would say this, they'd be like, well, God, I was thinking maybe no.
Yes. No, you mean my brother.
Right,
No,
right.
I mean you.
I don't speak well. I don't want to
Right.
do this. Do you know who these people are? Right? That's how the Hebrew prophets were. That was me.
Yes.
I was like, I hear you, but I was thinking no. And God's like, but I was thinking yes. And but I like God.
Yes.
And I trust God even when I don't want to do something. So I'm like, so there are times that I'm more trusting than others, right? So when I get to that part of like, okay. But also for me, when I know it's a calling when there's peace, right? So when it feels peaceful,
That's
not
good.
ease,
Sure.
but peaceful.
Yeah.
then
Resolved.
I'm,
and
right, like I'm
gotcha,
like
yes.
not afraid.
That's right.
Then I'm like, oh, okay. Like there are activities that are you do scared, right?
Yes.
But when the actual calling is like, I can do this. I know I have what I need. I'm not afraid it's going to be okay. That's how I know.
Awesome. Awesome. What a great answer. Okay, we got another question coming in. And again, type them in quick because, again, some people like to wait till the end, right when we're hitting the song at the end and start typing in questions. If you do that, that's great. But somebody else may have to answer it for you. So we've got Majik, the magic trap. Okay, good. Is there an EFI community in Nashville? That would be a question, I guess, for me.
For you.
There are several.
Remember there was one.
When I started, there was one.
There was one.
There was one, and it was right here off Rowan Drive. And that was started with Monifa Olade Koshun, Olade Koju, and then Baba Matahochi, who I studied with in years afterwards in Atlanta and Wisconsin. Now there are several.
I love that.
Yeah, there are several around, and I think
love
there are a
that.
few different people. Most of the people who when I came in and did my stint through EFA, are no longer in communities per se. Everybody's like, you know what, I've expanded out, I'm doing other things. So there are communities there. I would guess a Google search may produce it. But there are people out there finding, and one of the ways you identify people, and this is a dangerous thing to do, I'm telling you as a spiritual leader, because it's confirming something that Sister Monica said. If you see elekes, you hear people using the term, And you say Ilekes, they are the colored beads that you see people wear, and each one of them represents, and Sister Monica's got some on, but they
This is
represent.
what some look like.
Yeah, what some look like. You might see the all whites there. You also
Yeah, there's
see
a yellow.
red and black. You see blue and white, blue and silver. Those represent those Orisha or spiritual angelic energies. Now that's one thing you say, but
I'll take that.
I'm gonna say this just like everybody that might wear a third eye ring
Or a cross.
or a cross or a crystal. Every symbol doesn't guarantee that people are going to be in alignment or giving you practices that's going to help your life.
Right.
And so that's going to be on each of you. I never tell anybody do not study something, do not embrace something. I know I had my own spiritual path through spaces that ended up being this space called Infinity Fellowship, which is now, my spiritual community and our spiritual community. But in terms of a specific religious path, seek, you can find those. But in a person, if you find a person that's wearing a lekes and you ask them, where do you study? You can get everything from Nago to Lukumi to Santaria to Candomblé to any number of small subgroups under that.
Yeah.
So just be mindful that I would say align yourself with people. Again, I'm putting Snap on top of this from Infinity. Align yourself with people who are producing fruit, who are giving you community that's going to allow you to see good things happen in your life, because it's not just doing the ritual. Trust me, I've done the ritual from communion to baptism to Ebo and sacrifice to initiation to the lodge. I've done so many rituals. It's never about the ritual. It's about how that spiritual energy aligns and feeds you. So we can also be masters of ritual, and ritual is important. Community ritual is important. But we also want to make sure that we're masters of the spiritual practice that is keeping us in alignment. So yes, wish you well on that one, and we'll figure that out. And there's tons of people. You can Google and do a Facebook search, and there's always people. That's interesting,
Now you
Monica.
can.
Now you can, right?
Yeah,
But again,
But I would say, I would say DM Rev Jeff.
DM me, I'll try. I do keep up with some people. I've got a great sister in North Carolina. Indirectly through Monica, got a great Babalao or Father of Secrets. And I've reached an incredible age. I've reached 54. I'm almost 55. And as I reach this age, I recognize that most of the people who brought me into a spiritual space, who I trusted with my family and trusted with everything, have transitioned.
Yeah.
So they're going on. So we are becoming the elders, so
We
to
are.
speak. So yes, next time you teach a
I wrestle
class
with
in
that.
process, I'm sending people to your site so they can get to that.
They can get to it. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Let's get a question in real quick. Good sister, Dr. Michaela Bethune, who's out in California now and got her PhD at Vanderbilt. I love hearing multiple perspectives on this question. How do you reconcile conflicts between living out spiritually in spiritual practice, faith, and doctrines from different spiritual systems? I love that you mentioned a litmus test of the feeling, and I'm going to go to this, of the feeling of peace. Any other strategies? How do you reconcile the concept of living out spiritually with putting together these different spiritual practices?
I don't feel conflict.
Come on through. Let me run on.
I mean,
let me go
people
shop.
ask me this. I don't feel conflict.
Yes.
And I think it depends on how you approach religion, right? Like I have these conversations with people in my academic field all the time, because I'm not coming to religion for capital T truth. I think if you are, then you have conflicts.
Come on, Monica.
But that's not how I think about faith. As like there's a big truth out there, and this one has it, or maybe altogether they have it. I just don't think of religion in those terms. I'm a part of a tradition that, Ifa doesn't proselytize, right? So
That's right.
it's not. In fact, most faiths probably numerically don't proselytize.
I do know a couple of people
Right.
who do. But
I mean, there are people who do.
they probably brought in the
There are people
Western.
who do.
Yes, there are
right?
people. The actual teachings,
Right.
though,
they don't.
do not
'Cause
proselytize.
It's
That's right.
culture. It's the culture.
That's right.
Like my daughter doesn't call it religion. She calls it us as our culture.
Right.
Because it's all she knows.
Yes.
Right. So it's not like, oh, this is a religion you choose to her. This is just what my people do, and that's what Ifa has been for, especially triangular slave trade.
Sure.
Right? It's just what people do because this is who you are and what your people do, right? Everyone has an indigenous tradition. So for me, I don't feel a conflict, again, because I don't think there's only one way.
Right, exactly.
I think if you feel there's only one way, there is conflict, right? But most of us are the religions we're born into by accident of birth. Had we been born in a different country, a different year, we'd be something else.
Sure.
Right? So, and
Sure.
I think we all inherit, I like to think we all inherit these traditions, right? You inherit whatever you're given. And at a certain point, you then say, do I want to stay this? Like, you don't have to, right? It becomes something from your inherited faith to your chosen faith. And you might choose the faith you grew up in and you might not.
Yes.
But whatever it is, it should be something that feels right to you, right? Whatever that tradition is. So for me, I don't feel the conflict. I just don't. So I don't know if that's a helpful answer.
No, I think it's a great answer. I think it's right. It's right in alignment because again, when we see, and we talked about infinitude, our statement of infinitude, and what we do here in this space. There is no conflict until you find yourself in a space where you have to explain it to a person who feels like there is only one capital T truth.
I can give you an academic answer to this too, right?
Yes, give me the academic
answer. I think if
answer.
you are approaching the study of religion through a metaphysical frame as compared to a systematic frame. So a metaphysical frame is interested in how do we understand how the world works, right? So if you are working off of a metaphysical frame, whatever that frame might be, then what matters is that you're true to that frame. And metaphysical frames are trying to sometimes, they're trying to articulate what we know about the world. So a very common metaphysical frame from ancient times that the earth is flat.
Yes.
Good things are up and bad things are down.
Yes.
Right? And we can see a lot of biblical literature that seems to be operating off of this frame because that's what they knew. We happen now to know that's not true.
Sure.
We know the earth is round and that there are multiverses out there.
Right.
Some people are still operating off of faith based on a frame of the earth is flat, good
Right.
is up,
And they don't
bad is
realize the
down.
concept of heaven above, earth,
Right.
hell below
Right.
comes from that limited understanding of a flat earth.
Right, but
yes.
it's just the frame that people had.
That's
that was
what they had at the
metaphysical,
time.
right?
They were doing the best
So
they could.
Now
Yeah.
we know things about the spiritual world. We know things about quantum physics. We know
Yes.
things about how energy moves.
Yes.
Right, which I think many ancient traditions have affirmed. They just got there in different ways.
Sure.
Right. For me, a lot of that has to do with energy and change. And so when you have a shared metaphysical frame, the tradition by which you approach that frame is your tradition, but you share that frame.
Yes.
So some will call those laws of the universe, laws of nature, laws of thermodynamics, spiritual principles, right? We have all different ways of naming that.
Yes.
But I think if you're operating off of what philosophers would call, right, some kind of metaphysics of the universe that you're open to, right? You're open to changing. So as you know more, you would change your metaphysics, not try to fit your faith into something that doesn't fit
Yes.
your experience, right? Then it allows for that level of openness.
Oh, that's great. And there's again, if you have a question, type it in. And I won't go too deep down the rabbit hole because we can. We love to go
love the
deep
rabbit
into
hole.
these concepts. We love the rabbit hole. Never be afraid of the rabbit hole. Infinity is a rabbit hole. Feel free to jump in because we're going to have these conversations here. But I'm thinking of an introduction in a chapter of a book I'm reading now called "Reality Is Not What It Seems." It's by the physicist Carlo Rovelli, and it's been translated into English. But he's talking about this long-term understanding of human knowledge, physics and metaphysics, and how things have changed based on time, based on what we've come to know.
Right.
And how that is a beautiful process, whether we're talking about the understanding of a flat earth or thinking that the universe revolved around the earth at the time and making our judgments both philosophically and religiously from that space to quantum gravity and quantum physics now and the field that's opening up to allow us to look back at the origins of the universe and the multiverse and beyond. But he's basically saying that it is a gift to be in a space now
It is.
where we can look back and say, you know what, that did work for us then.
Right.
But guess what we've learned now? And that's not a challenge to it to say, let's throw it all away.
Right.
Let's celebrate the growth and evolution
Right.
of knowledge coming into the space. And then that way, with everything that's being revealed now, with science and religion and theology, there are more spaces where people can find their groove.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, as long as you find a practice that is producing fruit in your life and a community in your life that's helping you, you're going to be all right. Next, we have Keisha. Okay, Renee, how did you resolve that it was, I love y'all. Can I say I love this space? I just love Infinity. I love y'all. How did you resolve that it was okay to accept these other ways of worship / religious practices without feeling that you would be damned, especially when it came to family expressing it? Whew.
You know,
getting real today.
I've never had a robust understanding of hell at the end of the day.
Well, that's a good start.
It is.
Good for you.
Right? I didn't grow up with the fire, hell, damnation.
Okay,
thing.
good for you.
I mean, it was there, but it wasn't talked about that much.
Right.
Right? I didn't grow up with that kind of preaching around me or beliefs around me. So that helps.
That helps a lot.
Right?
That helps a lot. Give thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
As a process theologian, we don't believe in hell. We're like, you can make enough bad decisions that you'll get hell here. We don't have to send you anywhere. Right? So if you don't agree, it's okay. We have no hell to send you to.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like we just don't do hell. Right? We don't do condemnation. It's just not a part of our metaphysics, right? And so I didn't, damn me to what? Damn me to
Right.
where? Where am
Right.
I going to go? To me, I think when people are damning you, it's their way of saying we disagree, we disapprove. But you can't send me somewhere I don't believe exists. Right?
Oh, true.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
true. And that reminds me, Dave Chappelle said, people tell me that they're dragging me on Twitter, which really doesn't matter to me because Twitter is not a real place.
Right.
Right. So in his
Right.
mind.
Right, but if it's about the disapproval of loved ones, which I think is the core
That's
of
the
it.
core, yeah.
My mother used to say, that you don't care what people think about you, which would drive her bananas because she would be like, could you care a little more what other people think about
Sure,
you?
sure.
Could you dress this way? Could you maybe pull your stockings up, not be ashy, all the different little things.
Yeah.
And she's like, but you don't care. And it would rile her when I was a young person and a teenager and even young adult. But I think that was the gift. Right?
Yes.
That I didn't care.
Yes.
And not that I was trying to be rebellious, I just literally didn't care. And so, I think with my family, most of my family probably isn't even paying attention to what I write and say because they just love you because you're family.
That's right.
Right? We have a very strong family ethic. Like, we have Muslims in my family, there are Church of Christ, there are Baptist, Methodists. We all do God.
Right.
I think if you were atheist, we might be like, what happened? But we still wouldn't damn you. We just would understand.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's like, well, family is family, right? The family I'm closer to has been interested. Like my mom came with me to Ely. She said, oh, I shouldn't use gendered language for God, and stopped doing it. As I would talk with her about what I was learning, she would say, oh, I don't think that same gender loving people shouldn't be allowed to go to church and feel openly accepted as fully human.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
she, I think it was things that she just hadn't thought about before. And as I talked about it, she goes, oh, I saw that she would change her ideas and change her language and change her prayer and was open to a variety of things as I would talk about them, and was able to share all types of religious spaces with me. And not inauthentically, right? And I wouldn't ask her to, like, you have to believe what I believe. I would just be like, well, let's, like, hey, I learned this. Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the answer, right?
Yes, it is. That's good.
Yeah, I guess that's what, for me, that's what the answer is.
That's great. That's great. So thank you for that question, Keisha. It was awesome in the space today. Terrell has a question. What are some texts that have helped anchor your beliefs, especially regarding Ifa and other African practices as well? What are some quick texts that people can get to study?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I love Iwapwele.
Yes.
It's a yellow book. It's yellow.
Yes, Iwapwele,
by
that's one of the
Fatumbi.
first ones.
Yeah. I think that's a great intro. I teach it as an intro book.
Yes.
So if I were to pick one, I would say probably that one. You know, if you want to get real heady and read a thick book, Tracy Huck's book is really great.
Iwapwele.
Right.
You can get that. It's on
IWA
Rewatch
space
app.
PELE.
Yes, PELA. PELE. No, it's all right. I know the lights are
Yeah.
white. It's there. IWA PE
Space.
space PELE.
Which means good character.
Good
cool
character, the
which
pursuit
is
of good character.
The telos of
Yes.
Ifa. So if I say pick one book, that's what I would say.
Start with.
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that'll be great. It's a good intro primer. It's good. I mean, you can go out and get you a copy of William Bascomb's 16 Calories and dig through
Yeah, there's stuff you can dig
scripture,
into.
but yeah, you're going
Right,
to
but
want to.
I think that's a good intro.
Yes.
That's a very good intro.
Awesome.
And if you're on Amazon, they'll be like, other people have bought, you know. And
Oh, they do that,
yeah,
man. Just-
but you can see the other books that might be related to.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Okay, we've got another question. Coach Donnie B, good to see you, Coach. Good to have you on with us today. As African Americans are being more educated and reading books by people like John Henry Clark on spirituality, my question to you is, can we get to heaven without going through Jesus Christ or the Holy Trinity, from your perspective?
Well, I think I would say that the people who care most about getting to heaven are Christians. Right?
That's a good point.
That not everyone
Because
is,
it's part of the
it's
cosmology.
it's part of a
Yeah.
Christian cosmology,
Yes.
right? And if I were not like, how do I get to heaven? That's just not a question we'd ask, right? Like, are you saved is a Christian question, right?
Sure.
So
The framework, the
right?
framing.
That's the framework of it. So I think it's mainly Christians who are interested in getting to heaven. Number one. So it's like, in a way it's kind of a trick question, right? Can you get to a good afterlife without going through Jesus Christ? I most certainly think so, because many traditions believe in an afterlife,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Or ancestral realm,
Right.
Or spirit
That didn't
realm.
just pop up
Right.
recently
Right.
with Western
Right.
religion. That was something old, yeah.
Right. And the Jesus Christ Holy Trinity question is, there are Christians who don't believe in Trinity, number one. So not all Christians believe in the Trinity. There
Yes.
are Unitarians, just as there are Trinitarians.
Yes.
Not all believe the same thing about the Trinity. Not all believe the same thing about Jesus. And that's always been the case.
Sure.
Right. Since Jesus ascended, let's take that as a given.
Yes, and
There
since
have
people
been-
took over the
right,
story,
there have
it has
been various discussions and debates about, we know Jesus is important, but what is it about Jesus that's
Yes.
important?
Yes.
Right? I mean, this is what makes studying, like, early Christian history so interesting, because there was no agreement.
No.
Right.
And before it was a culture, it was a
right.
cult.
Right.
It was considered
they're
a
just
cult.
cults.
Yeah.
They're just people in living rooms,
Yes.
right? House churches, right?
That's right.
And so, to me, that's very liberating, because that means there isn't just one way to be faithful. There are many ways, even to be Christian,
Yes.
and there always have been.
Yes.
Right? Even the heretics don't think they're heretics. They just lost the political battle.
Right, right. So they didn't get to tell their story.
Right.
Yeah.
Like but they believe that they're in, or they're right as well. Right. So to them, their faith is just authentic as whoever won the theological political battle.
That's right.
So I guess, yes, you can get to an afterlife without going through Jesus. I think if you are Christian, right, heaven matters to you. But what that means is different things. Because like going through Jesus, what does that mean, right? For some, it could be believing certain things about who Jesus is. And for others, it could be emulating certain things that Jesus taught and practiced, right? Which are not the same thing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
So
they're
I would-
not. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You
they're
know,
not. Yeah.
so the Christian part of me
Yes.
would lean on the side of arguing that I don't know. I just don't even see it as like, I'm not that excited about the afterlife. So this is a little hard for me.
Right. Well, I was going to say though.
But to say that part of what's exciting about Jesus
Yes.
is what Jesus taught, how
Yes.
Jesus lived,
Yes.
his ministry,
Yes.
and how that is a model for us
Yes.
to learn, to follow, to understand the consequences of sometimes,
Yes.
right? So my daughter calls Jesus Teacher Jesus,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right, and if heaven matters to you, to me, that's what gets you there, more than a doctrinal claim.
And even the doctrinal claim is going to be filtered through what you define terms as. When I say Christian, right?
Right.
And we're not even talking about the hundreds of denominations.
Right.
We're talking about the perspective that you see you filter through Jesus. So if I'm sitting in a church, as I was as an associate minister, sitting in a church, somebody says Jesus, in their mind, they may be thinking, the blood of Jesus washes me white as snow.
Right.
I'm not going to get anywhere unless I follow what Paul taught me to follow.
Right.
Whereas what I'm saying Christ is saying, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the example. So
Right.
Christ is an example of how to live, and the
Right.
teachings are there. So even two different.
And they're not mutually exclusive, but
Right,
they are
not.
distinct. but
They're
they are
distinct. You don't have to have one or the other, but like
Right.
you said, they're distinct ways of looking at things.
Right.
You know, just like when we toss out terms, we toss out ifa, or we toss out condomble, or we toss out kinetic thought or religion or whatever it is. You're going to find some of the same things. It's like, what are you bringing to the table? There's the system of the ritual. There's the actual practice. So there are tons of ways out there. I always encourage people, find a path that resonates with you, that produces fruit in your life, and everything aligns. I think we got time for one more good question, one or two if we got them quick. How do you stop using, oh Lord, Lord. How do you stop using gender language for God? This is important contextually for me because the women who were on staff with me, this came up once when I was going to a church and I was on staff, and the pastor came, he was a guest speaker. He said, look, they don't allow women in the pulpit. So, you know, we're just going to sit in the pulpit and we're going to let the women sit on the front row. I said, I'm not going to sit in the pulpit and treat my sisters like a second class. So I'm going to be sitting on the front row with them because I'm not going to stand in the guy's pulpit. So, but it was tough for me with the women who were going through the seminary. We'd have these debates and I was like, how do you empower yourself? Within the end, you get on your knees and say, Father God, God is a he in a very Western way. How do you empower especially young women? But how did you begin to make that transition away from gender language?
I don't think I was attached to it.
From the start.
I used it because that's what I'd heard, but I wasn't attached to it, right? So I think it's a practice. I mean, if you want to stop, you practice stopping, right?
There you go.
I mean, that's the short answer, right? So, but God does not have genitalia, right? So God is a spirit. So
Right.
it's not like God is a he or God is a she, right? God is a spirit.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
you know, we
Much bigger than both.
Right. You know, God is incarnate in all of the universe, right?
Sure.
In every being, to me, I believe, every unit of energy, which of course is embodied in various ways, right? But God is a spirit, so God's not he or she. So if you believe that, which most people kind of do when you ask about it, then God's not a he. So you might say Father, Mother God if you
Yes.
want, or Parent God.
Yes.
But these are just ways that help us. They're metaphors. They're ways to help us understand something that's ineffable, something that is larger than our own language. And so I like the word God, and I just say God, 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 God. God's self, God did, you know, God's apostrophe S, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I just
Yes.
use God, and I just practice it. I've been doing it for like, I don't know, gosh, how old am I? I mean, over 25 years. So it just is to me, right? But you are in a wider world, right? So one day my daughter saw this thing that said, God is a black woman, and she loved it.
Yes.
And she's like, well, God's a he. I was like, where did you get that? You have never heard that in
I
this
didn't teach
house.
you that. What?
Your father doesn't use that language, but she's in the world, right? You know, she's on, you know,
Yeah, that's
kid
true.
YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And here's
He's an
he.
on-time God.
Right,
Yes,
and
he
I'm
is.
like,
Won't he
and I'm
do
just
it?
like, stop, no, not true, right? So I get, you know, you're in a world that is patriarchal, right?
Yeah.
That is higher, that
Yes.
elevates maleness,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you just course correct. You're like, no,
Yes.
period.
Yes.
That is not the case, right? So I think it's just a matter of practice. If you're used to it, you just practice. You say, you know, you catch yourself, Father God, Father, Mother God, or just God,
Yes.
amazing God,
Yes.
holy God.
Yes.
You know, just pick an adjective.
Pick what works for you. Pick what works for you. And that's, we always, I think one of our intros that we give here at Infinity is we have to allow people, we have to tell people that here you'll hear us say God interchangeably with divine source, mother, father, creation, God of your acceptance and
Yeah.
understanding. Because again, that's not for me to define. That's for us, each of you to define, and what means for you manifestation and getting things together. Real quick, and then we'll
here's
take
a
another question. We got one. Kim has one. Kim Jones. Is it okay to see God as self?
if I say it's okay, but I'll tell you what I think.
Come on.
I am a panentheist, which means I believe that God is in us and we are in God. To see God as self would be more pantheist, where you collapse self and God or collapse God and nature. So God is the tree as compared to God is in the tree, right? So I think God is in me, God is in you, but I don't think I'm God. Right? I think that God is much vaster, has much more access to way more information than I do.
Yeah.
Right? Way older than me, as a little eternal. Right?
Yes. Yes.
My spirit might be, but my incarnation is not. So I don't think we are gods, and I think it gets a little dicey when we start doing that because we are hella fallible. Right?
But some people would say, is that why we're gods with a small g, and we're in a
mean,
space where the
that might be a way of
5%ers,
distinguishing,
yeah.
right? I know, and I love teaching it. I'm not saying they're wrong.
Right.
That's why I'm saying what I think, and I think because I believe there are things that are greater than me, right?
Sure.
And so I think if I collapse God into me, then I get into this worship of self thing, and sometimes it always ends up looking like worshiping men. Like there are a whole lot of women running around God itself. There's a whole bunch of men running around God itself, right? Not that there aren't women, but so many more men. So somehow it always ends up being like worship the dude.
And the women in those scenarios, and again, no judgment on it, but the
Right.
women in those paradigms end up serving to support the men
Right.
and their divinity.
Right. So when that's
If
just
Speaks
my
chapters
historical
12 and 13.
observation.
Yeah, we're gonna get to this over the year.
So, if you just don't have that theology, it at least reduces how quickly you get to the patriarchal stuff.
Right.
And, God is in all of us. And to think that God is in all of us, it sounds like, oh yeah, I believe that. That's a hard belief, because that means that God's in people you don't like. That means God's in people who hurt you. Right? That means God is in everyone.
It's the concept of namaste.
Right,
The divine
so
in me recognizes the divine in you. You see it beyond.
But that ain't always easy.
No, it's not.
Like
No.
it's easy with your friends.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy with people who hurt you, people
Yes.
who oppress you,
Yes.
people who don't see the God in you,
Yes.
who don't see the human in you,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And yet still, we're called into a space
Right.
where we work on that practice.
It's a
as
practice.
a practice.
It's
I
a
always tell
practice.
people, spiritual practice. You always are practicing. You are showing up every single day and every moment. And what I would say, Kim, just from my perspective of what I see bears fruit in my spiritual practice personally and in this community's spiritual practice, I tend to see that energy and energy as a connection. If you go to the ocean, we're not as vast as the ocean. We're not as broad as the ocean. If you grab a bucket out of the ocean of water, it's going to have the exact same principles as the ocean. Is it going to have the depth? Is it going to have the breadth and the power of the ocean? Well, maybe not, but there are going to be some great qualities and principles inside that bucket of ocean water. So we have this same essence within us of all creation. And we are all small lights that come together to contribute to the fire of creation and manifestation. And that's what I've learned from the spiritual space I'm in. So these questions deepen us. And they what I love about them is they push us towards study and meditation, which leads us to more revelation. I think those are the questions we have. Thank you, Tony. We're good. And it's great timing because it allows us to wrap in a wonderful bow. Dr. Monica, again, this is just part one. We're going to do, I don't know how many series we've got. If people want to find you, where do they find you? And tell us about, before I ask you the rap question, I remember coming to Claremont to be a part of a lecture series on religious pluralism.
Yeah.
And it's Michael W. Beckwith and Michael Bernard Beckwith and me and a few other
Ann Holmes
people.
Redding.
Yes, Ann Holmes Redding. Just a great, awesome series at Claremont Graduate School of Theology. And there's always a question, what do you claim? It's almost like gang culture. Religion is like gang culture. What set you claiming? Rev Jessup in blue, what that mean today? No, it's not about set. But for clarification, when people ask, do you claim one set? Do you say, I'm Ifa, I'm AME, do you claim one set?
Do people ask me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I get asked a lot. I think what I try to do is live what feels authentic to me.
Okay.
And that puts me in various circles that sometimes overlap and usually do not.
Yes.
Right? That's probably the best way I can think of answering it.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess I claim them all.
There it is.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes I claim none of them because everybody done lost their mind. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't. I guess I just don't. I don't think of myself. I would say, okay, let me put it to you this way. Several years ago, I was involved in a teaching workshop for people who are teaching in graduate theological education. And we were asked to talk about what is our model of teaching. And that was a really hard question. I hadn't thought about it before,
Oh, wow.
even though I'd been
Yeah.
teaching for a while.
Sure.
And to draw a picture, they give us crayons and paper. And the picture I drew was a box with an open lid. And I was outside the box, inviting everyone else to come out the box with me.
Come on, man. Come on.
So I think when you ask me a question of what box do you put yourself
Yes.
in, I
Oh.
can't answer it because
Yes.
I think part of my calling is to say you don't have to be in the box,
Yes.
right? Come on outside the box with me. It's great out here.
Yes. It's free. I love it. And then as I wrap
Oh,
up, because
then-
I will, because I got, again, this sparks so many good things. Tell me really quick, as a practitioner, as a human being,
Yeah.
as a spirit navigating the human experience, and as a scholar, teacher, and theologian, what is the importance of having a regular community for people who are doing spiritual practice?
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is what makes the pandemic so hard for people, is not having community.
Yeah.
Because while what you believe is personal, it's not private, right? So you have to be around other people who share that faith and share that belief, because that's what helps us. None of us are great all the time. None of us are on it all the time.
Sure.
You need that support.
Sure.
We need other people. We need ritual. We need that
Yes.
community. You know, someone who's got you and you got them at different points, right? someone who you trust with your children, you know, or who people trust you with their children.
Yes.
You know, if
Yes.
you're a kid whisperer,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
You know, a place that's intergenerational. It's got some elders in it. It's got some babies in it. It's got some people in between, right? I think we
Yes.
all need that. I think it's a human need.
Yes.
And I think our faith needs it because that's what helps us to stay faithful. Because going back to your first question about the book, to me, the book was very much about losing faith.
Yes.
And that, like, the big thing I always want to shout from the mountaintops is that you're going to lose your faith. And we in faith communities make it sound like that's a bad thing.
Yes.
As compared to that is part of the spiritual journey.
Of course it is. Of course
And you will
is.
lose it more than once.
Of course you will.
And you will find it again.
And you will still question it after
Right.
you find it.
Right. But we need community.
Yes.
That is so, most of us end up doing that process very alone, and it's very hard and painful. But if you're in community that is okay with you losing your faith, they hold you while you're in that liminal space
Yes.
until faith finds you again.
Yes.
So that's why we need community.
I love it. Reverend Dr. Monica A. Coleman, where can we find you? Online, we've got you.
MonicaAColeman.com. I'm on the socials as Rev Dr. Monica, Rev Dr. Monica.
Rev Dr. Monica, we're
Mainly
in the
Instagram,
space.
I think.
Mainly Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram is not a bad
No.
platform per se.
I don't
as that
tweet. I don't
goes.
tweet enough. I'm on Twitter, but I don't tweet a lot.
Yeah.
But you can find me mainly on Instagram and Facebook.
I love it. Again, Reverend Monica, you can take her classes, get her daily devotional. You can do all of that at her website, which is right there.
Oh yeah, I guess I could.
MonicaAColeman.com is right there on the screen.
We have 40dayfaith.com for the devotional.
See?
ProcessTheology101.com for the class.
Octavia tried.
OctaviaTribe.com.
An explanation of spirituality through Octavia Butler's teachings.
Yeah.
This is what we have here. This is the space. And I want to thank you publicly and acknowledge that when I accepted the calling after wrestling for so many years
calling?
for the Infinity Fellowship, right? I've had those wonderful callings that seem to all fit together. They all intersected in the heart space. But when I accepted this, I created a brain trust group. And it was a small group of scholars and thinkers and practitioners of different religions to bounce things off of as we crafted how Infinity Fellowship should become a spiritual community, from ritual to connections. And you were a part of that, and I appreciate that. Your insight, your wisdom, your experiences, your transparency, your honesty, all of those things have very much become a part of the DNA of Infinity. So I appreciate that. This community appreciates you, and we always count you as a fellow person
Fellow
at
person.
Infinity as well too, with no titles. So we're in this
titles.
space. Yes.
Just Monica.
Just Monica. So look, you all visit that energy, visit that website, mark this, share this, open this space up for those of you who need a space. If you're in Nashville or beyond, we're global now. Just send us an email, infinitynashville@gmail.com. Slide into our DMs gracefully and go into that space. And welcome. So Dr. Monica A. Coleman has been awesome today. This has been If Speaks. We are speaking in this moment that you received something today that made your life feel better. We know that community is important. And so I'm speaking in this space today, in this moment, that the God of your acceptance and understanding is going to bless you really, really big. He's going to continue to show up and to reveal him, her, itself in your life in a powerful way. I speak that this week is full of new experiences, deeper study, and most importantly, healed relationships, focused vision. We are proclaiming all of these things together over your life. So we thank you. We embrace you in this space today and speak that the God of your acceptance and understanding, the blessings that come from that source, the love of the ancestors, wisdom of the concept of the cosmos, rest, rule, rock, and abide with you henceforth from this moment forward. We speak it in peace, and we say together with the words of affirmation from all over all creation and all traditions. We'll go to that now and say it together. And I put a description of those words on the screen in case you need to know. Amen. Amen. Hotep. Shalom. Namaste. Ashe. And so it is. Till I speak to you next week. Next week is Yoga Sunday. Roll those mats out. Join us. Be in this space today. We're sending a shout out to the tech crew who stayed on point. Sister Kanitha as a voice of infinity today. And once again, Reverend Dr. Monica Coleman. I'm reminding you guys, when you get information and take it in, it does become knowledge. But it's when you take knowledge and put it into practice for fruit that it becomes wisdom. So y'all be wise. I love you guys. That's a fact. You cannot change. See you next time. Peace and blessings.